everybody. Thank you for listening. Good morning, everybody. I was just checking that my volume and my sound was working correctly. Thank you. Good morning, Eileen. Firstly, I want to sincerely welcome everybody. My videos, the webinar system is set up, so normally my video is up in the corner, but at the moment I'm hiding here behind my slide presentation. So I want to sincerely welcome you all here this morning. My name is Dr. Rita Smith and I'm the Associate Dean for Tuck Graduate Studies. And as I said, I want to sincerely welcome you all to UCD School of Nursing, Midwifery and Health Systems this morning. We are really delighted that you've made the choice to study with us. And no doubt, of course, we think you've made a really good choice. And we want to acknowledge the commitment from you to complete a program of study. But we do hope and trust that it will be a valuable and rewarding experience and a worthwhile experience for you. We all know, and everybody within this webinar is very understanding of the difficult time we've come through in clinical practice over the last period of a couple of years. And it's really important that we acknowledge your commitment to patient care, clinical practice, and also to your own career by signing up for further study at this time. One of the strategic goals of UCD as a global university is to build a healthier world, and you are all contributing in a significant way to this by enhancing your knowledge. Our mission in our school is to educate and prepare nurses and midwives and other professionals to promote and protect health and well-being and dignity across the lifespan through skilled, ethical and careful practice. And we build our practice and our education on best practice judgment and we develop and disseminate disciplinary knowledge through research and clinical practice. I do apologize because now I'm having a problem sharing or moving my slides along, but I'm just going to continue and welcome you anyway. Our ultimate aim is to foster and support optimum health and well-being for all people through the lifespan. And we prepare exceptional graduates committed to excellence in practice and dedicated to lifelong learning. We all know the HSE core values of care, compassion and commitment. As educators, we also hold those values and we are committed to providing excellence in education. We are a globally high-ranking school with the sustained trajectory of providing research-led programs within a dynamic global university. And our research-led programs inform our research-led evidence-based education in order to provide and promote excellence in practice. And we also host a leading portfolio of cutting-edge health systems research, and we have extensive networks with our clinical partners. Our graduate programs within the Ireland East Hospital Group are delivered conjointly with our partners. So as you will be aware, we work very closely with our partners. And our expansive group of clinical partners includes CHI Ireland, the Mater Misericordia Hospital, the Mater Lean Academy, the National Maternity Hospital, Our Lady's Hospice and Care Services, St. John of God Hospital, St. Vincent's University Hospital, and also, of course, our HSE community-based programs and our public health nursing colleagues within the community. As you will have seen from our schedule, we have a wide range of nursing programs and midwifery and health systems offerings for the coming academic year. And we're delighted in many ways to provide opportunities for interprofessional education. And this year we have a number of our colleagues from the multidisciplinary team who are taking our health systems graduate certificate and our graduate professional certificate in process improvement in health systems. And we're delighted to have that peer sharing of learning and education within our programs. So what is today about? I suppose today is an opportunity for you to get your head around the UCD systems. It's an opportunity for you to think about how you're going to plan and organize your study for the year going forward. You will have an opportunity through meetings and Zoom meetings and online fora to meet the people who matter. And we want to provide opportunities for you to think about how you can succeed in your studies. You will be able to make contact with your program directors. You will be able to hear information from our core module coordinators. And most importantly, I think, you will be able to see that you're most definitely not alone. This morning, we have nearly 250 logged into our webinar. As you will be aware, we are delivering our Talk graduate programs in a blended format. We would have moved totally online during the pandemic. However, we're delighted to welcome our graduate students back for a number of days within our term for this coming academic term in autumn. We know our blended approach with the mix of virtual and campus teaching works really well. We're very well supported by our educational technology colleagues who support our online platform in Brightspace. And in many ways, Brightspace for you will be the one-stop shop for the coming trimester with us. We have students from across the country in different clinical settings and clinical areas, and we trust and hope that this blended approach is the best option for you for optimal learning and to move forward for yourselves within your career. For the coming year, we hope to recruit a graduate student representative for the School of Nursing and Midwifery Governing Board. And we're very keen that the graduate student cohort have a representative voice on our school nursing board, our governing board within the School of Nursing, Midwifery and Health Systems. So we will be in touch with you via email about recruiting a graduate student. So we'd be delighted if some of you will come forward to be considered as our student rep for the graduate programs. You will be meeting a number of my colleagues this morning. So when I'm finished, my colleague Bronwyn Salmon is going to cover registration issues with you. You will also have an introduction to Brightspace from our colleague Orla Daly, our educational technologist. A really valuable session this morning will be from our colleagues in the UCD Writing Centre, our school librarian, and also from our colleague, Dr. Carmel Davies on plagiarism policy within our school and within the university. Of course, we want you to enjoy your programme, but I want to draw your attention as well to the number of support mechanisms we have also here within our school for our graduate students. We have a very structured student support and student advisor service within the university. And our school liaison colleague is our colleague Anna Scully, who's always there in a student support advisory capacity for any students who may feel they have difficulties. So what I would say to you also, it's really important to reach out and to ask for help or to ask a question if there are some issues arising for you. We really want you to enjoy your program. So I know from my own experience, sometimes at the outset of a program, there's a lot of material and some parts of it may seem somewhat overwhelming, but a bite-sized approach is good. But as you know, undertaking a program of study requires a balancing act. And you're all graduate students, you're all mature students, and we all have to develop that balancing act with work, family life, and life commitments. So it's really important to take care of yourself and to look out for your classmates on this journey of study with us. A really nice thing, I think myself, about completing a program of study at graduate level is the opportunity to meet new friends and to meet new people. And without doubt, there is no doubt that we always learn a lot from our peers and from our classmates. So that's really my message to you this morning. It's a welcome it's a hearty welcome to UCD, and we will be delighted as the year goes along and the trimester to meet with you and to have a valuable relationship with you as the term goes forward. So I want to thank you, and I want to say enjoy your studies with us. And my colleague Bronwyn Salmon. Bronwyn is our Programs and Operations Manager within our school, and Bronwyn is going to go through a guide to registration with you this morning. Thank you all. Thank you, Bronwyn.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope my slides work. I have it in PDF, so I'm hoping it will work today. Yeah, it is working. Okay, thanks a million, Rita. So my presentation today is going to look at areas to do with registration, fees, RPL, that's recognition of prior learning, your student card, and also contact details. But before I just start into the presentation, if you have any questions, will you use the Q&A box and not the chat box, please? And also, when you would have applied for your programs, you would have provided email addresses. It's very important to provide, you're automatically given a UCD email address. Many of you have been to UCD before, so you use the same email address, but to also give a personal email address, because there's a lot of communication that goes out through targeted communications, and particularly when you finish your program and you're going to be invited back to the graduation/confirming ceremony, we will need to contact you. And, you know, many of you don't, when you leave UCD, no longer access your student email anymore. So therefore, it is vital that your personal email is also up on your personal record, so that you will receive any important communications, particularly graduation and conferring. So with further ado, we'll go on to registration. Now, when you log on to the UCD website, you will see UCD Connect. It's up on the top right-hand corner. You click on that and you log into UCD Connect. And that is your student number and also your password. Your password is normally your date of birth, and then you get the opportunity to change that. When you get into UCD Connect, you will see an icon, SysWeb, and you click on that. And this will bring you into, you click on registration, fees, and assessment. And then you will see my registration. So these are just screenshots. And then you will click on my registration, and this will enable you to enroll into your program. So when you enroll into your program, just before you click the submit button, you are asked to accept the terms and conditions of the university, and you click yes. And then when this is done, it will bring you to another screen, enabling you to register you to your modules. Now, there are a lot of you, depending on the program that you're in, because some of you have already started, your programs have started prior to the 12th of September. You have been pre-registered to modules, but those of you who need to choose your modules, this is how you do it. So when you're in this screen here, you will see your core modules. So this is just a sample of a program, it's the HDIP in nursing for children, and you will just choose your module. So if you're doing your program over 2 years, you only choose the modules for year 1. You do not choose your modules for year 2. Those of you who are doing a full-time program, which is over a year, then you will do your, if it's a graduate diploma, it's 60 credits. So you will choose all of your modules, all of the modules there. When you start choosing your modules, they will filter into your timetable. So once you're registered, your timetable is generated up on the top right-hand side of the corner. You can see it. You need to ensure that you're registered to the correct number of credits. And then this here shows you the breakdown of credits per trimester. So that's autumn, spring, and if some of you are doing modules over the summer, that's summer. So to look, I suppose, to make sure that you are registered to Brightspace and to see, I suppose, the macro view of your registration, you will click on to registration, fees and assessment in SysWeb. And then this would be your registration. Now, again, this is a sample registration, but once you see the orange with the B, that means that you have access to Brightspace. Now, if you're only registering to a module, it takes 12 to 24 hours for it to connect to Brightspace. So don't be alarmed if you can't see your module in Brightspace yet. Orla is going to go through that in the session after me. So, but it does take 12 to 24 hours to link to Brightspace. This is, well, these actually 3 videos are really great at actually explaining what I explained in the other slides. And so if you need to kind of like look at it in a very much simpler format, I would use these videos, and I will have this presentation up on the website after this orientation today. So the next area I'm going to look at is fees and RPL. So if your fees for your program are being paid by a third party, full or partial, you will need to ensure that your funding organisation or your sponsor hospital sends your details to studentpayments@ucd.ie. You can also access your fee statement again by going into SysWeb and clicking on student fees and summary payments up on the tab. And just to make sure that your fees accurately reflect what you are registered to. So the next area is RPL. This is recognition of prior learning. Now, a lot of you have already done modules or other courses in UCD, and the modules that you may have already done previously are appearing, say, for example, core modules. You might have already done a core module before here, a research module, or you could have done a course outside of UCD. And if you feel that you've already done a module that is the equivalent to a module or modules that are on your program, you may be entitled to recognition for prior learning. Now, you'd have to apply for that, and you would have to then supply the module descriptor, especially if you did the module outside of UCD. If you did the module within UCD, you don't have to do that. You just have to give the module code. And again, to apply for that, it's through UCD Connect, through SysWeb, and you click on applications and then click on recognition of prior learning, and you just complete an online form. So once you submit this will go to the program director, and then it will go to a standing committee. And if it is agreed, that means that you do not have to do that module, and you can also get a reduction from your fees. So the next sort of query that I get asked a lot about is your student card. Now, our school does not issue the student cards, and you must have confirmed your registration as per the previous slides, the instructions that I told you to follow, and you need to upload a photograph. And once this is done, you can go and collect your UCard. There's no posting out of UCards, unfortunately. You have to go to the UCard Bureau in Building 71. And that building, so this is the Health Sciences Centre. It's kind of over the lake near the Arts Block, the Newman building. So it's between Newman and it is between the Queen's School of Business. And if you have any questions in relation to your student card, you can visit their website. It's very informative, and you can also send them an email directly, but you must have confirmed your registration and upload a photo via the online registration portal that I showed you previously. So there are many people that you can contact for help. So we have Anna Scully. Actually, Rita just mentioned Anna. She is our student advisor, and particularly in the area of extenuating circumstances, leave of absence and withdrawal, you may want to discuss it with the student advisor, or you can just discuss it directly with your program director. For example, if you are sick or something unforeseen happened, you can apply for extenuating circumstances. And if this is the case, you would contact your program administrator and then contact one of us in the office, and we can send you on the instructions on how to do it. The same with leave of absence. Maybe if somebody's going on, just needs maybe leave for whatever reason, personal, medical, maternity leave, etc. And also if you feel that you wish to withdraw from your program. But again, you can either contact Anna, your program director, or you can come to us in the school office and we will show you what you need to do. It's an online process, but we can give you the instructions at the time. I don't want to overwhelm you today with different instructions. So the graduate office team, many of you would have dealt with Sean, Tony, Murta, Paul, and Asmahan while you were applying for your programs. And if you have any issues in terms of your registration, email the person that you would have been dealing with when you were applying for your programs here, because they are going to be your program administrator, and they will be able to help you. You can also use our connector form, which is on the nursing website, and you click on contact us, and there is kind of an online portal that you can submit your queries to as well if you wish to go that way. So I want to thank you for listening, and I am going to hand you over to Orla Daly. This is a really important session that she's going to be delivering on Brightspace. As Rita said, that's where you're going to be, doing a lot of your work through. And Orla, I'm going to hand you over.
Hi, Bronwyn. Thanks a million.
Screen. I'm going to stop sharing.
Cool. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you all virtually. And I hope you're going to find that there's not too much information this morning, but just so you know, that everything that I say will be, you'll be able to find it online later. So don't try and feel that you have to remember everything. I work here in the schools supporting faculty in developing materials for Brightspace and in also how to use Brightspace, and I also support students. My details are on the schedule for today. I also have a colleague called Aoife McCormick. Aoife is an educational technologist here in the school. So if it ever does turn out that you really need to speak to somebody, there are two Brightspace names. We can't help you if you're not registered in Brightspace, or explain to you why you're not registered in Brightspace. So you can check with the team, the program team, about that. So the first thing, actually, this came up at a session last week with some students, and it was such a good question. I don't know why I never thought of it before, is where do I find UCD Connect? Because you hear a lot of chat about Connect and how important Connect is. So this is just the UCD. I'm hoping you can all see my screen. I'm chatting away. I presume you tell me if you can't, so I'm going to keep going. This is the UCD homepage, and up in the, it's a little tiny piece of text up at the top of the screen and a little person icon beside it. That's UCD Connect. And this is where you find so many of the most important things to help you get through your program of study. If you're on the UCD School of Nursing webpage, It's also in the upper right-hand corner, and it's just the UCD Connect. So I'm just going to go back here, and you click on that and it will open up the UCD Connect portal. And I'm hoping now that you can see this if I go back here to share. Okay, so just a few things about Connect that are useful to know. The first one is that this is where your UCD Connect student email account. We're what's called a Google Suite institution. This means that you have a Google email account, and sometimes people get confused between their personal Gmail accounts and their UCD Gmail account. They're two separate accounts. And for example, people who use their phones, you will need to add your UCD Gmail account to your Gmail on your phone in order to be able to access messages on your phone. And sometimes people think they're sending messages from UCD Connect, and they're not. They're actually sending them from their personal accounts. I get a lot of emails and they can go to spam if you don't use your UCD Connect account. So that's the best way to ensure that you know that your emails are arriving where they're meant to be. So everything is just a clickable link. As you can see there, I'll have this little drop-down menu. Yours is student at UCD Connect. There is a Google Calendar if you like to use that for meetings and so forth. We won't go into that today, but you should explore it at your own time. Google Drive is a very safe, secure online storage space for all of your work. If you store content in the cloud in your UCD Connect Google Drive, you can access it from any computer once you log into UCD Connect. So, you know, sometimes people don't always have access to the same computer, or they might work at work, or they might work at home. And once you can access the UCD network and log into UCD, if you have readings or work in progress on Google Drive, it's very useful. Just make sure that every time you do updates, you're saving back to Google Drive. The little orange circle with B on it is Brightspace, and we'll go into that now in a minute. And Bronwyn mentioned the self-service password, and the default when you receive your information is that your username is your student number, and your password, I think, is your date of birth, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, Bronwyn. But if you want, you can go into this what's called self-service password portal, and you can change your password. Would recommend that you make a wee note for yourself, because sometimes students do that and they forget what they've changed their password to. And if you forget what you've changed your password to, you have to call the IT help desk. We can't actually help you over the phone, or the only people that can help you are the IT help desk, and they're at 716-2000, or maybe I'll check that number for you, don't take that down, and they will change your password over the phone. So I just want to show you a useful place to bookmark. I'm going to stop share and share again. Sorry for all the sharing screens, but it does actually, I think, help. So the UCD IT services have a sort of a help page, which is very useful if you have questions about, for example, Office 365, Google Drive. You can go in there and read up on it in your own time. We don't have time today to go through that, but every student does have access to Office 365, which is the most up-to-date version of Office, which is Word, Excel, PowerPoint. It's very useful to have. And there's information there about the VLE, how to keep your devices safe, which is super, super important. And also about the wireless network, how to connect to that when you come to campus. So that page there, UCD, and I might actually just put that into the chat as I'm speaking here so that you can all, and I actually just sent that to just everyone. So just going to put that in there so that you guys can see that, okay? And that's a very useful thing to have. So The only other thing I would say about UCD Connect here is that all students have a pro Zoom account, which means they have a licensed Zoom account, which means there's no limit on how long you can set up meetings. And you find it in UCD Connect. Your Connect, all the different icons down here will be slightly different, but you definitely will have a UCD Zoom account. And that means that you can set up meetings with your classmates, you can set up study groups and avail of all of the Zoom. I'm not going into how to use Zoom. I think most people have a fair idea at this stage after the last couple of years. Again, there are guides in the Brightspace modules about how to do that, but that's a really super useful tool. And you can also use it, for example, to prepare video presentations, to record presentations and make submissions if that's the kind of assignment that's been set for you. And it's very, very, very easy to use. And the only wee thing to note is that if you do make a video recording, that the Zoom record of it will only be for 30 days. So make sure that when you create your video that you download it to your local computer. So I would suggest that you have a wee look at that in your own time, just to make sure you log into it. Once you're logged into Connect, you will have access to Zoom. You may have to log in the first time, always using your UCD username and UCD Connect password. That's the key things to remember. Office 365 is over here as well. If I open that that will bring me into Office 365, which stores everything online. I'm sorry I don't have time to answer questions during the session, but if you do put them into the Q&A, if you have any questions about this, I'll go in and answer them after the session. So what I want to do now is just go into Brightspace and start talking you through that. Okay, so just sharing the screen. Okay, so this is Brightspace. The icon on the upper left here, the UCD crest, is called the home page. So that will always bring you back to the top level to show all your modules. So I've just clicked on the B in Connect and it opens up, and this is the screen that should open up for everybody. There'll always be this blue bar, there will always be these little icons. Over here on the extreme right, you can see I'm logged in as a student. That will be your name. If you click on the little icon where you see OS or whatever that will be, you'll see that a little drop-down menu appears and you can set up your profile there. The one that I want to draw your attention to is notifications, and I'll explain why when we go further into the modules. So just keep that in mind, that there's a little pop-down menu there. You can see that there's a little bell with an orange icon on it. That just, those little orange dots appear when somebody, usually your module coordinator or somebody else teaching in the module, has added some new information to your module in Brightspace. So if you click on that, it should, so I posted welcome to the new year as an announcement the other day. I added a piece of content. So that's what you'll see if you click on those little orange dots, and once you click on it, it will go away. So on the home page here, I have two modules. I have Sandbox 1 and I have Sandbox 2. You'll have modules with NMHS, whatever. And you can see that every time I put my cursor on it, it's not really hard to understand. It's just a link. There are a number of other, these are called widgets on the home page. You can see that there's a calendar with dates, and these dates are based on how the content has been set up in your module. Don't worry about it. If you find it a little confusing, you can just click on the little downward arrow and collapse this widget. And then those notifications no longer appear, and you have to do that just once and they shouldn't appear again. Over here in the middle, there's this work to do widget. Again, it's saying, what it's essentially saying here is from the 5th to the 18th of September, in this example module, there's some content that's been created in a folder, and I, as a student, I'm meant to go in and engage with this. So that's what we'll do right now. So I'm going to open up my first module, and you just simply do that by clicking on it. And again, you sort of think, oh, this looks very similar. There's a calendar again, and it's collapsed because the arrow is facing rightward. I have upcoming events, a little distracting, so I'm just going to collapse that widget. Further down the page, this is your module descriptor for this particular module. So if it's the, if it's nursing theory or whatever that module is called, you can go down and you can see all the information there. That's taken directly from InfoHub. Again, if I don't want to see that, I can just collapse it. Over on the right page, you can see announcements from your module coordinator will appear, and there can be a number of announcements, so you can click on show all announcements. And if you want, again, to just collapse that. I wouldn't recommend collapsing the announcements widgets because announcements are very important in Brightspace. So a couple of things to note in this. Again, we still have the little notification or the update alerts. There are these little words across. This is called the main blue navigation bar, or that's what I'll always refer to it if you're ever talking to me about Brightspace. And it's the same in all your modules. And as you can see, they're just links. You just click on them and things happen. So if I click, for example, on assessments, which I'm sure you all will be as soon as you can, what pops down is a menu. And you can see there's a menu for, that means that's where you'll see assignments, that's where you see quizzes. Well, no, actually, that's not the case in the modules. But it is good for you to know that the menu pops down. On that, you have what's called the originality checker, and we'll talk about that and how it links in with assignments later on. You have an option around to check how you're doing in your module. This information tells you how many times you've logged in, what you've looked at, how many quizzes you've done, what kind of content you've looked at. And this one, grades, is where you will go to receive your grade for your assignments and online exams, and also to see the feedback. So all I'm just really pointing out to you here is that these have little drop-down menus on them. And as soon as you click on them, the menus pop down, so you can explore them. But there is a particular way in which graduate modules are structured, and we try and ask everybody to keep it the same way so that you know where to find things. And I'll explain that now as I go on. My Learning is one that we're going to spend a lot of time looking at, because that is where all of your learning materials and content that has been uploaded to Brightspace is located. So I just clicked on My Learning, and you will see on the left-hand side of the screen, as I'm looking at it, I have learning materials at the very top, and then underneath it we have these headings, and these are like folder tabs. So that's the name of the folder, and the folder is over here. So I've got my menu name, which is my tab on my folder, and you can see there's a little rightward facing arrow. So if I click on that, it opens up the folder. So the way Brightspace works is, again, I'm sure you're all very familiar with this from other systems that you've used. If you haven't used Brightspace before, there's a menu on the side. The menu, this is the top of the menu. This is like the tab that you look at on the folder, and you just scroll across, and you can either expand all using this. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. You can either use expand all to open all the folders at the one time, or you can just click on them one by one. And as I do that, everything pops up like that. So that's how you navigate around the folders. Just to go back to the main blue navigation bar, discussions are for, discussion forums. I don't know, I shouldn't have clicked on that, so I'm just going to go back. Mostly, I think discussion forums will be set up from within the module folders, so don't worry about that. This one is important, My Class, because this is where you find the virtual classroom Zoom. So if you know yourselves that you will be on campus for, I think it's 3 days this trimester, and then the rest of the time you will be having live online classes as scheduled. So the classes will be scheduled from within Brightspace, and for you to know where to go, you just go to My Class, Virtual Classroom Zoom, and then you should see, ooh, my internet is very slow here. So what you will see is a list of classes. So you can see that I have one set up for the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. And all you have to do as a student is click on join for the right class, okay? And also in there, whenever there are recordings, they may be available within under the tab Cloud Recordings, or they may be added to the weekly folder in Brightspace. But if you can't see them in the weekly folder, you will see them under the Cloud Recordings tab. It depends on how the module coordinator chooses to make them available, if they are available. So also under My Class, you can see the class list. That's the names of all of your peers in your particular modules. And you can also see if you've been added to any groups. There's also a direct link to the library in Brightspace. Again, once you're logged into UCD Connect as a student, this is what's called a single sign-on system. So you can click directly and go straight into the library, and you shouldn't be asked to sign in again. And you'll have access to all of these tools and guides and tutorials. And I know Dermot will be going through those with you. The module tools toolbar, you can look through it at your leisure, but essentially you don't need to access that at all for any aspect of your learning in Brightspace. So how do I get back to where I was? The main thing is to always think of these up here as what's called the breadcrumb trail. So if I click on My Learning, I'm just clicking on a link here, and I go into my Brightspace Zoom. And I open up my folder and I decide that I want to look at, oh, how do I use Zoom? And I click up my Zoom guide. It opens up like this, and you can read about how to access your Zoom account and so forth. And you click on the slide and you move things forward. I'm just clicking on the tab up here to go back, if my internet connection will behave itself and let me go back. So where am I now? I'm in a folder. I've just come into the Zoom guide. I want to go back to my learning materials. I can click on learning materials there, or I can click on My Learning there. And this just takes a little bit of getting used to, but if I just click on learning materials, it will always take me back. So if you just take that one wee thing from this morning, it'll always take you back to the main menu. So most of the graduate modules are structured somewhat similar to this, we hope, in that they will have an Ask a Question forum. And the Ask a Question forum is a discussion forum which we encourage students very strongly to use if they have a query about general content in a module, if they have something in a lecture or an online class that they didn't quite get the hang of, or they want to ask an additional question, or even general kind of admin things. I can't find the textbook. Where are you going to park next week? All of these are things that you can ask in the Ask a Question forum. And it works really, really well because, as you can imagine, if there's 50 people posting emails to the same module coordinator, that takes a huge time to reply. Whereas if I go in here, all I did was click on Ask a Question. I'll just go back here. What do? Click on Ask a Question. Click here to ask your question. And I want to ask about parking. So I'll say, start a new thread. And the subject is... the subject line is quite important because this is what makes people read your question. If you maybe put in a subject line like help, I'm lost or something like that, people may go, well, I'm lost too, and I don't really want to know about other lost people, or maybe not what. But if it's something like, oh yeah, I'm interested in the parking next week. So you just go in and you type, I'm not sure where to park. Can anybody tell me? So you just put your subject heading in there, type in your question and click on post. And then what happens is when everyone goes into the module, they will see that there is a new post. And in order to read that post, all you do is click on the subject heading. And if you, as another student, you're very familiar with the campus, you can go, oh, I know a great place, or I know what you have to do. And you just click on reply to that thread. So that's what the threading aspect of it is. I won't labor this. I'm sure that a lot of you are very familiar with this kind of, forum and online forums and just how to communicate in them. But it's very important that if you have questions around the module content, that if you think this is something that anybody else in the class might be asking, to use the Ask a Question forum. So I'm just going to go back to my learning. And you can see there that as a student, I've been into the Ask a Question forum, so I get a big check mark to say you've been into the Ask a Question forum. We've looked at the Zoom guides. These are all very short 2-minute videos, well worth looking at if you haven't been using this system before. Module information is where your lecturers should usually post information about the schedule for the trimester, you know, what's happening from week to week. Week 1 commences this. What am I supposed to be doing? What's my content? Am I meant to be watching pre-recorded lectures? Am I meant to have watched them? And this is a really old module which doesn't run anymore, which is why I'm using it. But you can see here that there were pre-recorded lectures, there were videos, there were quizzes and things to be done, and then information about assignments. So that's normally what comes. I think you'll find most of the modules have that kind of a schedule. Bronwyn mentioned the importance of keeping up to date with your UCD emails. And in here we have the student guide to getting announcements as emails. So in Brightspace, we have this tool called announcements, and module coordinator may go in on a weekly basis to send you announcements with some information about an upcoming session or some new information that they've added to the module. Announcements do not automatically go to your UCD Connect email. You have to choose as a student to receive those announcements as emails. And this guide, which is in every module, will explain to you how to do it. It's up here on the toolbar where your little name is. You click down on notifications, scroll down to where you found announcements updated, announcements, new announcements available, put 2 little check marks in each box and click on save. And you only have to do that in one module, and then you will receive announcements for all your modules. So it is very important that you log into UCD Connect email on a very regular basis. Make sure that you've set your, you've updated your notifications to get your announcements as emails, because otherwise you have to log into each module every day to check if there's any new announcements, whereas you can just check your email, you know, once a day or whenever you feel is appropriate, otherwise to keep on top of things. There will be an assessment folder usually on everyone's module menu. And I wanted just to explain to you how assignments are submitted in Brightspace. Usually written assignments now are completely online. We don't ask for hard copies anymore. So there are 2 steps to the process. The first step is to complete an authorship and plagiarism declaration. You'll all be familiar with this from the past. You used to have a page that you completed and you signed. But in this instance, I have my assignment instructions here. That will be the module coordinator explaining you what you have to do. And when you have your assignment ready, you can click on this authorship and plagiarism declaration link. And there's a whole bunch of information there. And you just put 2 ticks, one to say that you've written this and that you agree and acknowledge to all these other things. There's no save or anything. It's just 2 ticks to say that. So what happens when you complete that form is that you then get access to submit your assignment in Brightspace. So when you go into the assignment folder, you won't see this click here to submit assignment 1. You will see the authorship and plagiarism declaration form, and you must complete this before sending in your assignment. And that is why if you go up to the assessment menu and you click on assignments, you won't see the assignment link, because you haven't completed the form. So I hope that makes sense to you, but don't worry about it. I know your module coordinators will go through it. And this process, again, took us all the way through the last couple of years, and we haven't had any queries or issues with it, and it works very well. And I think the first time you do it, just take a wee bit of time and make sure you're reading what's on the screen. And generally, that's how the assignments are submitted. There is also what's called an originality checker in Brightspace, and you may see this and you just tick and continue. And the originality checker is looking at the text that's been submitted, and it's comparing it to resources that it finds in a range of places. And you will have access to the report. It depends on how long sorry, excuse me, the report may come back very quickly. It may come back in a half an hour. It may take 5 or 6 hours. It depends on how busy the system is. I'm a test student and I haven't put anything in here, which is why I'm not seeing it. But you have access to the report, and there is information under the Brightspace, Zoom and IT guides about how to interpret the report. So I'm not getting all into how it works and everything today, because your module coordinators will talk to you about that around the times that they're discussing assignments. But it's just to know that's where it is. It's under Assessment Originality Checker, and that's when you only see the report after you've made a submission to it. Usually, if you're making, it's not an online written exam, if it's a written assignment, you can make a draft submission to the Originality Checker. And then if you want to make any edits or updates, and provided the due date and deadline for the assignment hasn't passed, you can then resubmit again. We don't have time to kind of go into any other questions about that today, but again, this is something your module coordinators will discuss with you. But you should have this assessment information folder on your main menu on the left. So I'm just going to collapse all to make it a little bit tidier. And then your weeks are normally organized either in date or in topic, and there will be links to there may be a short recorded lecture. All I did was click on the link, and up there's my video, and I just click on play and the video will play. And most of the videos should have closed caption enabled if you require closed captions. Again, I want to go back to my week 1 folder. I use my little breadcrumb trail here, week 1. And most often you will find that there are PDF versions of the lecture slides that were included in any recorded videos. If a live class is recorded, and not all live classes are, but if one is recorded and the lecturer lets you know that they are making the recording available, you may see something like this: recording of live class, September 12th. You click on the link, and what you have to do is follow the instructions on screen. You highlight the passcode and just copy it, then click on the link, and then just paste, you accept the cookies and paste the passcode into the box. And then I can watch the recording. Oh, it's telling me I have the wrong passcode because I must have changed it. But normally that just works. That should work. I don't know what I've done there. Anyway, week 1, but that's how you see it. You will need to paste in the passcode. There are example quizzes, which are really straightforward. Usually formative quizzes, you can do them as many times as you like. They're not graded. But they are good practice if you have online MCQ exams at the end. This is a 5-question exam. There's some questions. I'm going to go down. I'm just going to do this quiz, blah, blah, blah. And you submit the quiz, And you can see what the right answer is, what the wrong answer is, and also some feedback and how I got on. So I got that one wrong, I got that one wrong. So that's how the formative quizzes work. Summative quizzes, and you can see there that my grade is 40%. And if I want to see all of my attempts, I can just click on the various attempts here. And they're normally added into the folders as well. So I can see that I've come to the end of my time. Underneath here is the reading list. Again, it's just organized in a folder. Your lecturers may or may not have added links in which take you straight to the library journal article, and you can read it online. And this is a super way to kind of quickly get on top of your reading. I can access the full text online of this particular, and I haven't logged into the library today, so I'm going to do that. Oh, and you don't have all of this, so I'm just going to forget all that. That's for staff authentication, but you'll get straight through. So sorry, I can't see your questions. If you have any questions, As I said, I'm orla.daly@ucd.ie. When you get started into your content next week, if you do have any issues, if you do have any queries, please feel free to drop me a line. I'm more than happy to help out in the first few weeks to make sure that everybody is accessing what they need to access and that you can get off on the right foot. So hopefully you found this useful, and I may hand back to you, Bronwyn. Hi, is Bronwyn there? Oh, Jelka, are you next?
She is here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Sorry.
I was answering Q&As.
Sorry.
Yeah, we have next is the Writing Centre. They're going to be delivering a presentation.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Jelka Dolanin, and I'm here from the Writing Centre. I will just share my screen with you. And hopefully you can see my slides. Okay, can everybody see the slides? Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, you're all very welcome to UCD, and you're very welcome to the Writing Centre to visit us anytime when you need us. As you can see here, we open on Monday, September the 26th. So hopefully you won't be writing until then anyway. We are a free service for all UCD students, and we provide basically two things. One thing is one-on-one sessions, and then the second one is some kind of workshops or seminars on different academic writing topics. So you can either sit alone with a tutor and have the session completely directed to you and for your needs, or you can sit in one of these seminars. And basically we try to help the students communicate their knowledge in the written format. And we all know, I think, that this is quite difficult sometimes. Some things are really clear in our head. We know exactly what we want to say, but when we want to put it into writing, it becomes a little bit different and quite difficult. So this is what we help with. Also, we aim to help students become more confident, independent writers. And this is what I keep telling my tutors, you know, like it's one thing to try and improve the assignment that's in front of you, but what we are trying to do is really to improve the writer. So basically that next time you approach an assignment, you have a clearer idea how you need to structure it, how you need to phrase it, how you need to present it. So that's our aim. Now, if you're wondering why is there a need for the Writing Centre, I think there are many reasons. I mean, first of all, students are assessed on the basis of their written work. So this is how you are presenting your knowledge. This is how you're showing what you have learned, what you have understood. And it is, I mean, sometimes you will come across a new genre, for example. Maybe you have never done academic writing. Maybe you haven't done academic writing in a long time, or maybe you haven't never written a research paper or a literature review. So the genre is new to you. So it's really all these things, you know, how do you structure that? How do you approach that? How do you even understand the questions sometimes, so understand the requirements? So students like to check with us, are they on the right track? Or is this what's expected from me? So we help. I mean, obviously, we can't help with content because we don't know anything about nursing, but we help with general writing and general writing skills. I mean, one of the reasons is that we often see a gap between the research, knowledge, effort and the finished assignment. And what I mean by this is that very often students have put so much time into reading and researching, and they're really trying. But then the finished assignment is something that they're disappointed with. They know that it does not correspond to their knowledge. And we see it very often when students come to us for one-on-one session. And when we ask them about their assignment, they're so able to tell us. And they're really able to formulate it really well. But when we read the paper, this is not necessarily coming across. And this is mainly because of the third point I have written here, that academic writing is a skill that can be learned. So there are certain conventions in academic writing. There is a certain way you write the introduction, a certain way you structure a paragraph, a certain way you present your evidence or you reference your evidence. So all of these things are just something that you don't have to know now, but something that you will be learning, and you will come across, and you will be practicing. Like anything, practicing academic writing is what makes it better. So we endeavor to help with that as well. We do some seminars or workshops during the year. They're usually advertised on our website or on Facebook, Twitter, if you want to follow us. Or sometimes if they're directed, especially for, let's say, graduate research students, I would send a direct email to graduate students and say, this may be of interest to you. Here you see just some names, some of the sample workshops that we have offered. We change them a little bit every year. So hopefully there will be something that's of interest to you. I mean, these would be quite popular, like essay structure is always popular. Descriptive versus analytical writing is always popular, referencing, phrasing, and so on. I just wonder, did I miss one slide? No, I didn't, sorry. Okay, and then on our website, you have some handouts and videos that also could be of use. So www.ucd.ie/writing center. We do have videos. They are longish, they would be around half an hour or maybe 40 minutes, but they could be useful if you're new to referencing, if you're writing a literature review, and so on. Or if you're not sure what we mean by analytical writing, something like that, you can check out the videos. Now, our main service is really one-on-one writing sessions. So here you see me with 2 students. I mean, I just said one-on-one, but here you can see 2 students. This happens sometimes. I mean, if 2 students are working on the same assignment, they will just say, can we come in together? Sometimes it's 3 students, sometimes it's 4 students, and they just are starting on an assignment. They're not sure how to approach it. So they book a session, or they just walk into the writing center and they ask, could you just take a look? Could you just answer some of our questions? And we can do that. We are there from the 26th of September when we open. We will be there Monday to Friday, usually from about 10 o'clock in the morning, definitely till about 4. On Mondays, we are there until 7, but you can check that on our website. These sessions are very popular because they are student-centered and because we answer student-specific questions. So workshops and seminars are useful if you want to find out something about, let's say, the literature review. But if you actually have particular questions about your own writing and your own literature review, it is much better to just sit alone with a tutor and ask questions that interest you, issues that you think you're struggling with, any queries that you may have about writing, or if you have a few paragraphs to show us and say, could you please read it? And could you please tell me, is this how it's supposed to sound? Is it clear enough? Is it logical enough? Is it coherent enough? Is it effective enough? So basically any questions that you have. So we would address your particular writing issues rather than just general writing issues. And this is something that you can book online. You can make an appointment. You can either sit with us in person, you can make an appointment for an online session, or you can just drop in. We love it when students just drop in. I know sometimes it's not feasible because you're not in the library building, but if you're passing by, if you have some time, because sometimes when you look at the timetable and you want to book a place, it looks like everything is already booked. But sometimes when you just drop in, the tutor is actually sitting free. So I would encourage the dropping in when you are on campus. We can help you with a range of things. I mean, sometimes students come and say, I don't really understand this assignment question, or I'm not entirely sure that I understand it, or I'm not sure how to start, or I'm not sure how to make an outline. Should I make an outline? Sometimes it's about the structure that students just are not sure. What goes in a conclusion or what makes a good conclusion to a paper. They always fear they're very repetitive. How do you start? How do you present your argument? How do you write analytically? It's a big one because very often students are not sure if they're being analytical. Or in my experience, students often think that being analytical is something really too complex for them. Sometimes they are being analytical without realizing. Sometimes they are just describing and they need a little help to tell them, okay, so you're describing now what you did, but now say, what was achieved by that? Why did you do it in that particular way? Start thinking about it, and then you are already writing analytically. Sometimes editing and revising, sometimes students just want us to look at something and say if we would edit it, how would we edit it, how they should go about editing their finished product. Sometimes it's just grammar problems. Sometimes students are not sure when they get feedback from the lecturer. And if the lecturer says, for example, something like argument is not sufficiently developed or evidence is not presented effectively, they're not sure what that means. So we help with that. And then referencing always is a big query in the Writing Center. Usually feedback after our one-to-one sessions, as you can see here, 94.5% said that they feel more confident about their assignment after the one-on-one session. And some students said, not sure. And one tiny percentage of students said no. But this is really what we would like to see, that the student, obviously in one session, especially if a session is 30 minutes long, you can't do much. But at least if a student feels more confident that now they're a little bit more able to approach that assignment, they can do that. They can do something, come back next week and see what they have achieved. Now, we can't help with everything. Obviously, we can't help with the content. We don't know your content, and we wouldn't be able to even if we did. So we are focusing just on the way you are presenting that content for your lecturer. We don't correct your assignments, rather we go with you through the assignment, through parts of the assignment, and show how something could be said more effectively, or how something could be supported with evidence more effectively, and things like that. We can't proofread because we're just not a proofreading service. It's a completely different service. But we can help you. If you are not a native speaker, or if you're worried about your writing, we can take something apart with you. We can take a paragraph or two with you and show you how you would go about proofreading. We don't help with English as a foreign language in the sense that we are not language teachers. But again, if that is your main query, again, we can take a few paragraphs and go through it with you and say, are you making any particular mistakes? Are you making any mistakes all the time? Something that can be improved, how it can be improved, and so on. We are located in the James Joyce Library. This is our room. So when you come into the library, you just look to the right, and you will see this glass room where the Writing Center is situated. We like it that it's a glass room because often students would be just sitting outside, or maybe studying, or maybe just waiting to see that the tutor is free. They can see us, they can just drop in and see who is free and who can work with them. Our writing tutors are all PhD students or postdoctoral students. They come from different disciplines, although most frequently those disciplines are within arts and humanities and social studies, and we have one engineering student. So we wouldn't have anybody from medicine or nursing or midwifery. But it doesn't matter, and very often students prefer not to work. Tutors prefer not to work with students from their own discipline. They just prefer to work with somebody where they can be more detached from the work. They are experienced tutors. They have taught in UCD and possibly in other universities. They have done a lot of grading. Many of them are editors for different journals. So they would have a lot of experience. And they are approachable and not non-judgmental. And I think an advantage of having a tutor there who is not your lecturer is that they are not invested in the grading of your paper. So they are really your fellow writer. They're interested in writing, they're passionate about writing, and all they want to do is really help you with writing your assignments or your projects. So basically that's it. All the other information is on our website. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook. I know I should really get onto Instagram as well, but I haven't done it yet. If you have any questions for me, you can write to writing.center@ucd.ie. and I can answer them. Even something that, you know, comes into your head over the next few days and you just want to ask me, please feel free to ask me. So I'll stop my share and I'll see, I don't know if I can see if you have any questions. If you do have any questions, please just ask me. Very happy to answer the questions.
Thank you so much, Salka. It's really, really helpful. And I think it's a really valuable resource for all our graduate students. So we're delighted, you know, that your service is there for our graduate cohort of students, really helpful. And our students are blended this year, but they will be on campus 3 times. You were wondering, but they will be on campus at some point, so they will be able to access your service if they need to. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Dermot Stokes from the library. Hi, Dermot.
Hello, how are things?
Good. I'll leave you to it.
You're very good. Thank you very much. So good morning, everybody. As you heard, my name is Dermot Stokes and I am your college liaison librarian. And that just means I'm part of the library that's here to support you while you're doing your course here in UCD. So at any stage you've got any question about the library, please don't hesitate to get in touch. This is particularly important since it's blended this year and that you won't physically be on campus. That doesn't mean you cannot talk to me or you cannot get help from the library. As we go through the presentation, I'll show you how to get my contact details, and emailing me is probably the best way to get in touch. So what we're going to do today is just give you a brief introduction to the library and get you started on getting the supports and helps that we have, how to use OneSearch, and also ask any questions that you might have yourself today. And as you just heard, you don't need to, if you can't think of a question now, but one pops up later on, just email me. Okay, so just a brief bit about the library itself. You're going to be using obviously the Health Sciences Library, which is the home library, if you like, for nursing, midwifery, health systems. But you should always bear in mind there's actually 5 libraries in the UCD library system. We have, as we said, the Health Sciences Library, we have a Veterinary Medicine Library, an Architecture Library, a Business Library, and we have, if you like, our largest library, which is the James Joyce Library. You will be able to access and use all of those libraries, and all you'll need is your U card to get in and out of the library. So as soon as you have that, you'll be able to physically come in the library. If that's not happened yet, you will still be able to use our electronic resources, our ebooks, our journals, etc., using your UCD Connect account. So the U card is really just to get you in and out of the library and to borrow if that's something that you want to do. Just talking about borrowing, if you want to borrow, you'll be able to borrow 30 long loan books for up to 60 days. You'll be able to borrow 3 week loan books, and you'll be able to borrow 3 short loan books. The long loan and the week loan books, you'll be able to renew or will renew automatically for you online. The ones that don't are the short loan books. So you need to be really careful because there are quite large fines if you're late back with those. I think it's it's €2 a day that you're late back with that. And obviously nobody wants to do that. And I'll give you some information about how you can tell which is which when we look at OneSearch. So just going to quickly show you the library website now and just show you where things are on the library website and how you can get there yourself. So what we have on the screen here is the UCD library website. It's ucd.ie/library will bring you to this page. If you're already familiar with UCD Connect because you've been investigating it or you've seen it already this morning, you'll see there's a link there for the library. If you click on that, it'll bring you back into a section called Online Tools. And you can explore that later on yourself. You've got links to OneSearch, the catalogue, e-journals, and the databases. But the place I want to bring to your attention initially is at the very top of every library page, and it's called Guides and Help. And here we've got loads of useful information to get you up to speed and to be a repository of information for you while you're doing your course. So when you're in Guides and Help, you'll see I'm a student. So just click on I'm a student. And then we've three main sections. We've got a range of interactive videos and tutorials. They're on a range of, the videos themselves on a range of topics such as researching, how to use one search, evaluating information, etc. You heard about referencing. We have a lot of information on referencing and plagiarism, so it's worth checking those out. The videos themselves have been deliberately kept very, very short. They're about 4 to 5 minutes long. If it's an interactive tutorial, it'll obviously go at your speed. So if you have a question about the library, try and see if we've done if we've done a video on the topic that might answer your question, and then obviously get in touch with me if that doesn't work. Just above that, we have a section on subject guides. So we have information, or we have guides for all the subjects or disciplines supported here in UCD, everything from agriculture to veterinary nursing. So, and if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see there's a guide there for nursing, midwifery, and health systems. If you click in there, you'll see that there is my contact details. You'll see there on the left, there's a picture of me, and there's a little email me button. So if you have a question at any stage, why am I being asked for a credit card when I want to view this article? Why can I never view this ebook? Whatever it is, just get in touch and we'll answer the question as quickly as possible. It's also worth checking out here on the right-hand side, journal articles and databases. That will highlight some of the main resources that we have here for you. And you're probably aware of some of these already from your previous studies. So CINAHL, PubMed, etc. Some of these you may not be aware of. So I would certainly encourage you to try these out and play with them to see how they can support your studies here in UCD. If you're off campus, the most you will be required to do to access this is to use your UCD Connect login details, and you'll be able to access them, no problem. The other thing I will say about the subject guides is don't presume that we have done a brilliant job and have correctly anticipated all your needs while you're doing your course here. So if you have an assignment, one of the questions we would always recommend that you think about is there any other subject that might be useful? See if we have a relevant guide that could have information, and then check to see, do we have any other resources that might be useful? The last section to point out to you is study skills. And here you'll find information on finding and searching for information, critical thinking, literature review. But we have a really popular and valuable resource on referencing and plagiarism. So if you click in there, we have loads of information on plagiarism, but we also have information on the referencing style the school will be expecting you to use. And the school will be expecting you to use Harvard. And when you click on the tab, we have loads of examples and information on using the Harvard style. So if it's some time since you've used Harvard or you haven't used Harvard in the past, I would recommend that this is something that you would bookmark and keep available for you at all stages, particularly while you're getting up to speed with referencing. So the way it works is you look at what you're reading. So if it's a book, for example, with 2 or 3 authors, you click on the example there, and it tells you what bits of information you need to cite and reference this correctly, and also how to lay them out. And as you probably remember from your previous referencing experience, the devil is in the detail. So paying attention to where you put your full stops, your colons, commas, etc., is really, really important to make sure that you reference and cite correctly. If you're like me and you like something tangible in your hand, so when you're doing something, you can see we have a PDF guide that you can download and print off as well. So that would be something that could if that's your learning style, that could be something that would be of use to you as well. If you have any concerns about referencing from a time management point of view, one of the tools that you can consider using is EndNote. And EndNote is software that allows you to manage your references. So using some of the resources that we talked about, that we pointed out to you earlier on in the nursing guide, such as CINAHL, PubMed, and OneSearch, which we'll be seeing in a second, you can save your references to what's called an EndNote library. And then there's a feature that works with Microsoft Word that allows you to put those references into your Word document and to do your referencing and citing for you. You may have heard of this already, or you may have used an alternative. And this could be something that could be a big time saver for you. Because of COVID and the impact of us not being all in one place at any one time, we have put our training online. So you can just click on EndNote training here in the bottom right-hand corner of that list. So whether you're using Windows or Mac, there's a version that's available to you. We do recommend EndNote 20 rather than EndNote Online. There's instructions on how to install it from UCD Connect, and the video itself is about 35 minutes long, and there's a workbook that goes with it. And the advantage over a live presentation on EndNote training and the video here is the same content, but you can pause, you can rewind, etc. So if you've got any questions about EndNote, do get in touch and I'll happily answer any questions that you might have. If I go back to the library homepage, on the homepage, we have OneSearch, and OneSearch is what we would have called a few years ago the library catalog. And you can use this to find a book, find a journal article, to read an ebook. So there's a lot. It's very powerful and it's quite friendly to use. So if I wanted to see what we have on nursing education, I can just type in nursing education into the one search box and just click on search. It'll take a second. And we find out that we have quite a lot of results with 1.4 million. So it's really important that you don't get freaked out by that. One of the easiest ways to manage your results is to look to see if you have any phrases you can identify. So we're searching for nursing education as a concept. So if I put quotation marks around nursing education, it'll look for those two words together rather than two separate words. And if I research again, we should see a big reduction in the number of articles. So we've gotten rid of about 90% of that way. And if I want to see what print books we have, I can use these options here in the left-hand side to narrow it down. So if I click on print books, it'll hide everything else and just focus on the print books. If you want more information as to where the book is, all the information is underneath the title and the author. You'll see there's a section here that says check shelves. If it says check shelves, it means the book is physically in the library, it's not borrowed by anybody else. There's a shelf marker subject number. You don't really need to concern yourself too much about that, but what you should always bear in mind is that every subject has its own number. So if you get to where the book should be on the shelves and it's not there, have a look on either side because there might be something else that might be useful as well. Health Sciences tells you which of the libraries the book is in. Remember, we pointed out at the start that there's 5 libraries, and General tells you how long you can borrow it for. So it's either the 60 days or the week loan. And I said I was going to tell you how you can tell which is which. So if it's a short loan book, you'll see a red label on the spine. So that means it's can only be borrowed for 1 week and it can't be renewed. And there are quite large and substantial fines if you're late back with it. So be really careful with that. If it has a purple label on the spine, that is a week loan book, and that book will be renewed up to 3 times. And if it is the longest loan, there'll be no label on the spine, and that book will self-renew, I think, up to 5 times. If you're new to UCD, or it's sometime since you've been in the Health Sciences Library, and you're sort of wondering, where do I go to get this book? You'll see there's a map button, and if you click on that, you'll get a graphical representation of where you need to physically go to get this book off the shelves. So all the information is here. We're told it's in the Health Sciences Library. We're told it's on level 1, which is the middle floor of the library. And you're told to go to the aisle 1.7B. So when you're physically in the library, on the end of each shelf, there's an A4 sheet of paper with the aisle number. It's in sequence, so it's literally a matter of going from shelf to shelf until you get to 1.7. And then you look for that number which will be on the spine of the books. We've even highlighted the specific shelf in red, so that it's just a matter of going to that location. Since we brought this system in, UCD Library was the first library in Ireland to bring this system in. We're always seeing students going around with their phone out, looking for the shelf. So it's really popular and very useful tool to help you find the books that you know you want to read. Once you've got the book, you can go and read it at a desk, or you can bring it downstairs to the ground floor, where there's either a self-issue machine if you want to just issue the book yourself, or you can go and talk to whoever is on the desk and they'll issue the book for you. Either way, when you get the book, when you borrow the book, you will get a receipt telling you when the book is due back. But if you've lost that receipt because it's just a flimsy piece of paper, you can log into your account, and you'll be able to check what books you've got out and when they're due back. And you'll see on the UCD Connect, there is a link there to your library account, and you can just link in there to see are any books due back, or what I've got out. As I heard earlier on, you're not going to be on campus every day. So one of the main sources that you're going to be interested in are ebooks, and it's a very similar process again. I just tick on the box for ebook full text online. Locate the book that I want and click on the full text online link beside the book. Once again, you're going to be asked to log in. I had just logged in before the session, so I've not, but you will be asked to log in with your UCD Connect login details. So you can read the book online, you can download the book, you can download the specific chapter as a PDF, and you'll see the table of contents at the bottom, and you can open it up if it's in sections to see the various chapters. Should bear in mind that in this instance, we only have access to 3 copies of this book. So if everybody's trying to read it at the one time, you may get a message saying no copies available, or worse to that effect. If that's the case, try an hour later on, or because ebooks are used very differently from print books, where the book could be out for 60 days or a couple of weeks. People get what they want and the book is back in again. If you find that no matter when you are looking for this book, you're always getting this message, get in touch. And if there is a technical reason, we'll try and sort that out. Or if we underestimated the demand for the book, we can see if we can get extra copies available for you. The other thing that, as I said, you can actually view our electronic or journal articles. If you look under the section called content type, you'll see a box there for journal article. If I tick that, it'll hide everything else and just present you with the journal articles. We still have about 72,000 journal articles. And one of the things you can, particularly in health and nursing, you're always interested generally in the most up-to-date literature. So you have the option of going for what's been published in the last year, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. If I go for 5 years, it'll hide anything older than that. And we've seen another big reduction. Then it's just full text online, just as we did for the ebook, and you should be brought out to that article. Any second now, there we go. So in some cases, you're brought out to the individual article. Sometimes they might have an extra step to get it. Sorry, my Zoom menu is just blocking everything. So let me just try a different example just to see if that makes it a bit clearer. So here we have the article from the Journal of Professional Nursing. If you scroll on down, you can read the article on a web page, or you can view the PDF and download the PDF to your computer. So you've heard already talk about referencing and citing, and it's really important that you keep track of what you're using for assignments so that you can cite and reference them correctly. If you come across a brilliant idea that you want to use an assignment, but when you're writing up, you can't remember where you got it from, you can't really use it because you're opening yourself up to the possibility of plagiarism. So take a lot of care in recording where you're finding all these great ideas. And you can save the articles or the books to your computer so that you'll have them, the details of them. And you see beside each reference, there's a bookmark or ribbon icon. This is how you select your references in OneSearch. And also on the top right-hand corner, there's a larger ribbon with the number of items you selected. If you click on that, then you can email the details to yourself. You can print them off, or you can export them to EndNote if that's if you've chosen to use EndNote as well. Right, that's really all I wanted to bring to your attention. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now, and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Does anybody any questions about the library? Okay. So we look forward to seeing you in the library when you're on campus. Do come in, and it's a lovely library, and we're happy to answer any questions in person or online that you might have. Thank you.
Thanks, Dermot. The next presentation is by Carmel Davies, sorry, in relation to plagiarism, and it is pre-recorded. That's great. Thank you, James.
You're all very welcome this morning, and it's great to see you. It's very exciting starting your new programmes. We here at the school, we want it to be a really positive and exciting and enriching experience for you. So I'm going to talk about something a little serious for 5 minutes. And my name is Dr. Carmel Davies. I'm the Associate Dean for Teaching and Learning within the school. And part of that role is that I chair the Plagiarism Committee. And while much of the work on plagiarism might have negative connotations, a lot of what we try and do in the school is to ensure that students avoid plagiarism and that you're very clear about your work is presented with a high standard of what we call academic integrity. So they're the two topics I'm going to focus on this morning: being clear about academic integrity, our expectations within the school and UCD community, and how we ensure that we avoid plagiarism. So academic integrity, if we have a look at the UCD Student Code of Conduct, and this is an important document that guides all students while they are in UCD, and it's based on 3 principles: respect, responsibility, and academic integrity. So this is a key pillar of expectation around good student conduct. And academic integrity, it's a core value for anyone in UCD, whether you're a researcher, an academic, or a student. For a student, what it you can think about what it means for you is that any work, any assignments, any academic activities that you engage in, that they're underpinned by integrity and honesty. And that is that the work that you present, the assignments you present, are your own work. They're your original. You are the author and you are responsible for that piece that you've submitted. But of course, within nursing and midwifery, we always use what we call source-based writing. We draw on other literature, we draw on other authors and ideas to substantiate our arguments. And academic integrity is ensuring that we also, within our writing, give due acknowledgement to any other materials or sources of materials that we have used. And we do that through a referencing system. You're very familiar, I think, at Talk Graduate with in-text citing, where you cite where you're drawing on, what authors, what other people's ideas that you're drawing on within your work, and then having presented a reference list or a bibliography list at the end of your work. And within the School of Nursing, Midwifery and Health Systems, we use the Harvard referencing style. So it's important, if you've been to another institution that used a different one, that you're very clear about that. And I think the other thing about honesty with your scholarship is that we do promote your work independently. We promote your academic voice within your writing, but it is just about ensuring that you acknowledge others within your work. Now, just to, I suppose, underpin the seriousness of academic integrity, within the academic regulations, which are the kind of governing rules around assessments and exams, it's very clear in point 4.13, and that outlines that as a student, it is your responsibility for the academic integrity of your assignments that you submit. And from a lecturer or a module coordinator's perspective, it's also within the regulations that all appropriate steps are taken to assess academic integrity within an assessment that's submitted by a student. And then the overarching head of school, or in the case of me nominated as chair of plagiarism, is that we've to ensure we've robust procedures that are in accordance with the university policies and procedures to address any alleged breaches of academic integrity. And that, of course, is plagiarism. So it's very clearly outlined in the academic regulations. And for today, I suppose, as a student, it's you just to acknowledge that it is your responsibility to ensure your work that you submit is of a high level of academic integrity. Now, plagiarism, if we are to define it, and we've taken the definition from the UCD plagiarism policy, which guides us in our school, it's the inclusion in any form of assessment, any material without due acknowledgement of its original source. And that isn't always a written piece of work. That might be a video. It might be the multiple different kind of ways that we engage now in assessments within the school and UCD. It is very clear that it breaches the code of conduct, and it is considered a form of academic dishonesty, and it is very much aligned with academic misconduct. And for those engaging in academic misconduct, if it's intentional, that has very negative impact on other students, but also it diminishes your whole learning experience. Plagiarism, of course, it can be intentional, but oftentimes it can be unintentional. And I think that's where with citations, paraphrasing, good academic writing is very important. Unfortunately, in both instances, it's still seen as a very serious breach and an academic offence, and it is subject to university disciplinary processes. And that is oftentimes dealt with at the level of the school and the level which is the plagiarism committee that we have here. So I'm just going to go through a few different forms of plagiarism. It's important to get this clear. The one that is first in the list is about presenting your own name to work. So presenting an assignment that was actually authored by a third person. And that might be another student, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, with or without their permission, or it might be work that's produced through and purchased from organisations such as the SA Mills. And this is known more as contract cheating. Any of those are considered plagiarism. And we have software built in to our Brightspace system, which when students submit work, that work is matched with all other third parties, whether that's peer-reviewed journals, and we can very, very clearly see when a student is matching a previous student's work, not just in our institution, but in other institutions as well. The contract cheating will also very quickly be matched with the software, and it's very evident and obvious, and evidence becomes available of plagiarism. The second one is presenting ideas, theories, concepts, methodologies, whatever that is, or data of work from another person without giving due acknowledgement. And that is also considered plagiarism. The third and fourth are probably the most common unintentional at times, and this is where incorrect paraphrasing, where within work, whether it's text within written work, that it is presented but very minor changes made, so just very minor changes with sentence structure from the original. And the important thing is here, even with the inclusion of a citation, an in-text citation, it doesn't actually eliminate it if there's actually very poor paraphrasing where the sections of text are so closely matched to the original. So I'm going to give some resources around paraphrasing and what that means, and that's certainly more than changing a few words. The fourth area that's common is just failing to include an appropriate citation for all original sources. And we see this a lot where students are using the internet and it becomes very inappropriate because the sources they're using on the internet are often not presented within their reference work. But it can be picked up very quickly on software to be able to trace and track exactly what sources that students were using. And if that's not presented in a reference list and not made explicit, then that is a form of plagiarism. Representing collaborative work as solely your own, if you were working with a group of people, then it's important to be able to acknowledge that. And the other form is colluding or copying from others during examinations, and certainly that has been more prevalent sometimes with online exams where they might be taking place in remote places. And one that is common and sometimes underestimated by students is submitting work or part of work that was already submitted for an assignment, and this is known as self-plagiarism. You absolutely will learn from previous assignments. You might bring ideas into assignments that you might have worked on previously, but this is where there will be substantive work that's being presented again for another module, and you were already graded and you would have got a result on this piece of work. So that's self-plagiarism, and that's really important to be mindful of. I'm very happy to take any kind of questions. You can drop an email to me privately if you have any queries on the different types of plagiarism. So it's really important to be positive about and confident that your work is of a high standard and that you are guided by honesty and integrity in all of your work. And that's certainly the approach that UCD and we take within the school. So we focus on promoting positive student behaviours and try and not think about plagiarism so much. So the best available evidence is education around good academic integrity, leading to preventing plagiarism, which is more important and certainly a priority of ours over just simply detecting plagiarism. So that is the importance really about the talk I'm giving you today and the resources that I'm giving you. It's all around actually supporting you and promoting that within your work it's of a high academic integrity and standard. Now, UCD got a national forum for the enhancement of teaching and learning. They got funding, and when the policy on plagiarism was revised, what was also developed was a module, a course that is now available online, and this introduces you as a student to all the core principles of academic integrity in writing. It covers about citing and referencing. It covers about that nature of what I had said about having your academic voice and yet being confident about that you've adequately acknowledged others that you're using within your work. And I think when you really understand those principles, it will help you increase your confidence in your writing or in any submission of assignments or work that you will do. It certainly will help to avoid any unintentional or accidental plagiarism. So I have given a link with where you can engage and complete this course. It takes no longer than an hour. There's nice interactions and quizzes, and you get a badge and a cert when you have it completed. So that is something I would encourage, and it's a high recommendation for all students. It's called Academic Integrity Course, and it's one of the Explore modules. When you have that course done, I think another great layer of resources is the UCD library resources. Of course, the library developed in conjunction with the Writing Centre and in conjunction with many other with expertise, the module on academic integrity. But there's also within the library excellent web pages that look at topics again like academic integrity, plagiarism, how to avoid plagiarism, and really drill into referencing, citation, and they have an excellent tutorial on paraphrasing, what paraphrasing is versus what it is not. So again, at the end of the presentation, you'll have a link that you can go and look at any of those resources. There is a tutorial on Harvard. It's a really nice short video on the Harvard referencing style, and there is also a full web page on Harvard referencing, and that shows you how to reference whether it's a journal article versus a website versus a policy document. It goes through everything in a step-by-step manner. There's also a PDF document that you can download for Harvard referencing. So they are all resources that you should engage in and have over the course of your program. And of course, the Writing Centre, I'm not going to say too much because Jelka is here to talk about the Writing Centre, but a lot of plagiarism and a lot of assignments have elements of writing. And oftentimes the core of good citing and good paraphrasing is actually good writing. So the UCD Writing Centre does provide tuition and a range of resources on all aspects of writing, and I won't say more on that because you have a little talk on it later. Now, just to go back to the procedures, so I suppose the most important one is ensuring that we give you advice and we give you the resources to promote academic integrity, and today is the start of that, is you start your program. And it is your responsibility then to be able to engage in those resources that we have provided for you. But if it is a instant that a module coordinator or somebody who's grading an assignment is suspicious that they've detected plagiarized work, we do have very clear procedures within the school, and we are guided by the UCD plagiarism policy, which it is your responsibility, and you should all engage in that policy and read it, and I've provided that link. We also have a school plagiarism advisor that advises module coordinators that can oftentimes really investigate and find the evidence if there is a suspected case of plagiarism. And it's the committee then that a referral would go from a module coordinator to the committee directly. I would receive that as chair of the committee, and then the committee convene. There's 5 independent members that would review the work, review the evidence, review the reasons that are outlined for the suspect around plagiarism, and it's really based on that evidence then that it is a plagiarism committee that will deem whether work is plagiarized or not. And part of that, you can have a look in the plagiarism policy, is that there is opportunities for students to meet with the plagiarism committee, and that is you know, very good and a very sensible thing to do. And within then UCD, we have a central system that if there is plagiarism detected, that is recorded so that we know any subsequent instances of plagiarism. In some very serious cases, rather than being dealt with at the school level, as a chair, I can actually refer straight to the disciplinary process in UCD. But that usually is when there has been subsequent plagiarism or it's of a very serious nature that it's escalated straight to UCD disciplinary processes. So these are the resources for your promoting your academic integrity. The Brightspace module, I would say get going and get doing that. That would be done in an hour. And then you have the library where they have about academic integrity, referencing citation. You can download your Harvard style referencing tutorials. And also I did mention that there is Originality Checker, there's software built into the Brightspace platform. And there is information which you can look and read about for students, because you can often also check your work for academic integrity. So that might be useful for you as well. The policies that are absolutely key from this talk this morning is the student plagiarism policy, that you're clear about that and your roles and responsibilities. And of course, that is an overarching part of student code of conduct. So while academic integrity is one aspect, I think it's really important that you engage with it and be very clear about what's expected of you within UCD. And if you have any queries, I'm always very happy to take them. Just drop me an email and I'm very happy to address any questions you would have. I'd like to start and finish on a positive note, and that is that we welcome you here. We want you to have a really positive learning experience, and most of you have been through an undergraduate and been to either our own institution in UCD or another, and yeah, I'm sure you're very clear about principles of academic integrity and avoiding plagiarism. So it's something to be very aware of, but once you know your principles, then you can be quite confident about your work and that it is underpinned by honesty and integrity. So have a lovely morning, and it was really nice to have the opportunity to be able to come and talk to you.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a nice coffee to sustain us for the second part of our session this morning. And as I said just before our coffee break, Carmel's session is for the students who are taking the dissertation module. Thanks, Carmel.
Okay, can everybody see the screen? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita, and I hope everyone has had a good morning. I think I had a recorded session earlier on plagiarism, so I have a different hat now, but I'm Carmel Davies, and it's lovely to meet you all and welcome you to the School of Nursing, Midwifery and Health Systems in UCD. So I'm going to take you through just 10 minutes or 15 really of introducing the module called Evidence Synthesis and Translation. It's probably better known as your master's dissertation module. It's 30 credits. So it's quite a large module and runs over 2 trimesters. So my name is Carmel Davies, as I've mentioned, and I work very closely with Dr. Deirdre O'Donnell on this module. So in terms of the faculty that run the module, it is Deirdre and I. And this year, Deirdre is going to be module coordinator and I am co-coordinator. So if there's any administrative issues, you will be directing them to Deirdre. Deirdre couldn't be with us today, but she sends her wishes and she will see you next Monday when we start the module officially. I think the other 2 things about Deirdre and I is that the module is around evidence-based practice, but there's 2 very distinct strands with this module. There's an evidence synthesis strand and evidence translation strand, and I'm the lead on evidence translation and Deirdre leads on evidence synthesis. Most of that pathway doesn't begin until trimester 2, and we very much share the shared teaching across all trimester 1 together. And other supports we have is Jeremy, who I know you've had a presentation with this morning from the library. He comes, he works with us and he helps with search strategy. And we have academic lecturers across the school that will support you as your supervisor for your dissertation. So we have a team of people all here to support you and make it as positive as we can. Now, just in terms of the module, what it's about, the whole context of the module is evidence-based practices, and that's just divided into synthesis and translation. But I'm talking to converters here with professionals with years of experience, but our healthcare and nursing and midwifery, it's grounded in what we call best currently available evidence, and that is 3 types of evidence that we tend to draw on: the available scientific evidence and the knowledge that's out there, and then also considering the unique conditions and preferences of our patients and their preferences and experiences. And then there's the professional clinical knowledge and context, and that's something that with a lot of experience that most of you have in practice is a very key part of the chain of evidence-based practice. So this module introduces you to the concept of evidence-based practice principles, and then we apply and we do very much project-based work to really work through what it means to bring it through an evidence-based practice process. And in Ireland and internationally, there is so much emphasis now placed on healthcare professionals really needing the competencies to be able to conduct research and be able to really understand the process of evidence-based practice and not having those knowledge and skills and competencies. And that's very much what this module will help you to develop. And we do know from research that the level of nursing and midwifery education, when it's master's and degree level and higher, that is linked with also being able to translate and implement research into practice. And that is quite a challenging area in itself. So we know that, and we know the association between research and improved quality of care. In terms of the module, it's based then on, when I say we know the principles of evidence-based practice, and it's about applying those. And it's a guided research project that is based on a problem from your professional area, your practice area, and you scope with your stakeholders the kind of problem that you might like to develop into an evidence-based practice project. And you formulate quite formally a research question. Then we go and we take it through retrieving what is the available scientific evidence, and that's doing a systematic search, and that's where Jeremy from the library really helps us. And then depending on the scientific evidence, if that's already synthesized, so it might be that there's clinical practice guidelines or systematic reviews, that the work has already a synthesized evidence base, then we take you through to evidence translation and you start to prepare a proposal around implementing and translating into practice. And we focus then a lot more on the patient values, their expectations, and that kind of local contextual knowledge and clinical experience. If it is that you find when you do a search that you have 5 or 6 research studies, then we bring you through a process where you go through the skills of doing an evidence synthesis. And we use different frameworks that will help you with that. And you come away with being able to conclude your findings and make recommendations for practice. So that divides up the 2 journeys. And you won't know which journey you're on until you have your search conducted. But the exciting thing is it's very much a clinical-based project and it's grounded very much in your practice wherever you're working. So that is just the kind of division. Again, if you're familiar with evidence-based practice, there is a framework around the process that drives the process. And we start with assessing. We assess our clinical context, our area that we're working in, and we start to think about problems or issues or challenges you want to address. We move then to ask the question, and that is that we will guide you with very formal PICO, PECO frameworks that really help to formalize a good evidence-based research question. We move to the acquire phase, and that's relevant to find what is the best available scientific evidence. And that is where you do a systematic search. And we will bring you through with the library, supporting you with skills to be able to do that. And if you see here on the left side, that 3 phases, the assess, the ask, and the acquire, is all trimester 1. And that's where Deirdre and I and Dermot very much share the teaching and the support that we give you. And it's at that point, when you have your systematic search, that you determine whether you're going to go on a synthesis strand where you synthesize that evidence further and make conclusions, or you'll come on the translation and we'll think about next steps in terms of trying to translate and implement into practice. Now, like all modules in UCD, how we set it up is there's 3 major things we think about when we're designing a module. The first thing is, what do we want students to come away, what kind of competence, knowledge and skills at the end of the module? And that's your learning outcomes. And that is exactly as it says on the tin. What, as a student, would you be expected to have learned and have developed knowledge and skills by the end of the module? So I'll just flag to those, but they are up on Brightspace, and they're the first thing I would say you should think about engaging in, because that gives you the vision of by next May, the learning that will have taken place and what you will have gained as a learner. And then we have to think about, in order to achieve those learning outcomes, what kind of teaching and learning strategies do we put in place? And I often consider that the kind of scaffolding of the learning activities that we give you, the lectures that we provide, the interactive sessions, and that is very much guided on the phases of your learning at any time. And then to be able to assess if you've met your learning outcomes is actually your research project, which is presented as your minor thesis, your dissertation, and that is submitted in May. So that's your major form of assessment. There are a smaller body of assessments, but we'll go through those. They're more formative. Just being a 30 credit module, it runs over 2 trimesters, and that is more student effort hours than most other modules that you would have undertaken, which would be 10 credit. So don't be put off by the student effort hours, but it just does explain that it is a larger module and carries quite a weighting within the program. Now, I'm not going to go through the learning outcomes, but I would like you this week, they're up on Brightspace, that you could take a look at them, and we will go through those in a lot more detail next week when we actually open and introduce the module formally, and you'll begin to see that for each learning outcome, we very much have supports in terms of the learning activities that we provide and where that we assess that within your dissertation. So the module is 2 trimesters, so September to May. And we house it like all modules on Brightspace. And just if you're in, you can see that we put in the lovely health sciences building. So it is recognizable for you. I'm excited this year, it's in blended form. So we will have some face-to-face, but we are relying on all of the great things we've learned about online learning. And there's certainly a very predominant presence of online learning that gives you a lot more flexibility, that you don't always have to be on campus, and that the days that we do campus activity are very much focused for face-to-face. So yeah, you get a little mix of both. And I think that's the feedback that Talk graduate students have given us, that it works well for them. On Brightspace, we set it up. We've done a lot. I suppose we've learned a lot about when you're engaging in a module that's primarily online. And we will set it up in chunks, weekly chunks, and we're very specific that you don't get lost wondering what should I do, but it's very clear instructions as to what's expected week by week. So I think that in that way, students kind of can very easily stay on track. The other thing we also have in Brightspace is click to ask a question. We would check that every 48 hours, and also students can clarify with each other as well, sometimes around questions. So that's the way you would expect to see your Brightspace set up. Now, this is what people are most interested in, probably. What days do I need to be where? And our face-to-face with 3 sessions in trimester 1, and I've only given the trimester 1 timetable today. So next Monday, the 12th of September, we are starting in UCD, and we really look forward to seeing you face-to-face. You don't really need to scramble. I have this up on Brightspace and we'll give it to you afterwards, but it does take you through then the weeks that are live online. So that means that we have a virtual classroom set up like we are today, that you can engage with us and that we can ask questions. And we very much have kind of active learning and breakout sessions. And then in between those weeks, you have what we call synchronous learning, and they're weeks that you have recorded sessions or you have different readings that we'll suggest, but you'll be able to do those across the week in your own pace. So in terms of the Mondays that you need to make yourself available, there are these Mondays here with the dates. In terms of the assessment, we're going to go through this in a lot more detail next week, but we have the dissertation, and rather than 100% of the dissertation, it's 90%, but it is actually the most kind of the largest piece of work you will do on this module. And you will submit your dissertation next May. So it's a year-long piece of work. Throughout the trimester 1, we do have 2 little pieces of what we call very small assessments. They're formative assessments, and by formative we give you an assessment so we can give you feedback and we can really help you, that you can feed it back into your dissertation work. And on the 10th of October will be our 2nd day on campus, and we're going to have that day, which will be like you'll have prepared a 2-minute pitch around what you think your research question is, and we'll have a panel of experts that will be able to help shape and ask questions and guide you with that. And they are what we call formative. They're such a kind of small level of assessment. It's very much assessment for learning. And then on the end of November, the 21st, there'll be a very short written assignment to really help you with the background to your research question, some of the literature that's informed that, and your research question search strategy. And again, that's to be able to give you quick feedback to be able to really help you to formalize those into your chapters, your dissertation chapters. Your supervisor will be awarded, so everyone has a supervisor that is also this layer of support. And we have very much clear guiding principles for supervisors. But for anybody that's scared about a dissertation, and it can be, you know, a little bit fearsome, I think, at the beginning, but we really have broken it into small steps. And for your dissertation, we will have set deadlines all through the year, and your draft chapters, you'll be able to submit them to your peers, and you'll be able to review each other's draft chapters and give yourself feedback. get that feedback, then revise it, and then send it to your supervisor, and then your supervisor will also give you feedback. So it's very much a scaffolded and supported model that we use, and we get to a very exciting place in May, really, when students produce really excellent quality work. And as I said, the academic supervision, we'll talk about that next week, but all students, we've common guiding principles so that there's equity and consistency across all of the experiences for students. So that's all I really have to say, except to say I'm really excited about seeing you in person next Monday. Deirdre will be there as well. We're on the UCD campus. The room looks a little strange, G80 in the Newstead, but I'll put up a map on Brightspace for you for that. And that will be 2 to 4. And from 2 to 2:30, we're just going to introduce everything again in a little bit more detail about the module. We'll give you a little bit more detail on your assignments and guidelines. And then we will kick off with a lecture to start thinking about evidence-based practice, assessing the context, and being able to begin to think about asking research questions. So we're really going to start on that model and process of evidence-based practice. So I look forward to seeing you. If there's any questions, I'm very happy to take them. Otherwise, we will go through all this in much more detail next week.
Thanks a million, Carmel. So the next session is going to be given by or delivered by Rita and I think Eileen. Thanks, Rita. It's for students on advanced practice, ionizing radiation, chronic illness, MSc in critical care, sorry, and it's advanced health assessment. Thanks, Rita and Eileen.
Bronwyn, just before we leave, could I just address this? There's 2 questions.
Sure, yes.
Somebody just asked about the 2-minute pitch, that they're in much smaller groups. It's not the whole class. They're very much small little groups that we will put together. And someone else had suggested that they couldn't see the module on Brightspace, and will it be added later? And I would think that that might be a registration issue for that student.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the student would have to be registered to the module, and it can take up to 12 to 24 hours for the student to see the module appear on their Brightspace.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Carmel. Thank you, Bronwyn. Thank you. I see my colleague Eileen there. Good morning, Eileen. Good morning, everybody, and welcome again. And our video access to you is actually working now, so that's really, really helpful. And I'm delighted to welcome those of you who are taking the Advanced Health Assessment module with us. My name is Dr. Rita Smith. I'm the module coordinator, and myself and Dr. Eileen Furlong work very closely together in a similar format that Carmel just referenced for herself and Deirdre on this Advanced Health Assessment module. So for
morning, everybody.
Morning,
thank you.
For this autumn trimester, the students taking this module are the MSc Advanced Practice in Nursing, the MSc Advanced Practice in Midwifery, the Graduate Diploma in Chronic Illness Management students, and also students who are taking prescription of medication and referral for radiological procedures. So you're all very welcome, and we're delighted to have you on board. And I seem to be having a problem with my slides this morning, Eileen, for some reason. Let me just try this again. Sorry, apologies, I've lost. Okay, sorry, I'll move it that way. Can everybody see that now?
Yes, I can see it, yes. Yeah.
So I suppose the whole focus of this module, and as Carmel said, our module is very clearly laid out in Brightspace. But the whole focus of this is really very much linked to clinical practice. We're thinking about really developing and demonstrating competence in relation to taking a health history, in relation to communicating well with our colleagues and our patients and everybody in clinical practice, really developing an understanding of the pathophysiology associated with clinical conditions. And the focus then really is on comprehensive knowledge of health assessment skills. and recording that knowledge within our clinical case notes. So we've been running this module for quite some time now, and we're very, very, I suppose, positively reassured in relation to the outcomes, in relation to the achievement of physical assessment skills within our student cohort. So it is a busy module, but it's really very, very clearly laid out in Brightspace in a very structured way. And we're very fortunate our colleague Orla, whom you met earlier, works with us closely within the structured approach to the module set up in Brightspace. So again, it's a blended learning process. You will be attending for 3 days on campus. Our module is set up in systems based on the Bates textbook, and you will have had information on that, and I'll clarify that with you again. We also have an online platform in relation to pathophysiology learning, a platform called Osmosis. We go into much more detail with you next Monday when you're with us on campus. So it's set up in a systems structure within Brightspace. We have a very detailed module overview document which outlines all the pre-required work and all the preparation needed for each Monday. So we also, for the days we're not on campus, we will be having an online virtual classroom tutorial with you to follow through on all the systems. And our core textbook is the Bates textbook, and your program director will have sent you detail of that. Our module is very much a self-directed approach. It's essential, I think, that students work in the online space. And the fortunate thing is it's so well structured in the online Brightspace format that it allows you to access the learning very clearly from home or at a time that's suitable for you. Of course, you will be applying the learning in your clinical practice, and I suppose patient-focused care really will allow you to enhance and think about your acquisition of the skills and the learning on this module. I think many of my colleagues this morning have highlighted the Brightspace. In our module, we have an Ask Us question format, and it's up here. You see discussion, so you can click in there and ask any question or any question you wish. No question is ever wrong or ever difficult at all. So we're very happy to receive any questions that you may have about the module. So we are hoping that, we know we have a very large number registered to our module already for this autumn trimester. So hopefully you will be able to log in and get a sense of how the module is laid out. Each week we have a structured approach to a system. We start off this week with the skin and musculoskeletal system, and then we move on through the systems, as you will see in Brightspace. We use the Bates textbook, Bickley and Cesagli here, and we also use the partner videos on physical assessment skills based on the Bates textbook. And they provide very clear outline of the skills and skill acquisition and what we're allowing you and hoping for you to achieve in our module. We're very focused as well on how we take a health history and how we listen to our patients. So as I said to you, we have an Osmosis platform for pathophysiology, and we have very clear guidelines on how to register for Osmosis in Brightspace to access the pathophysiology tutorials. Next Monday, we will go over that again if anybody is having any issues. And we really encourage our students to have a layered approach in relation to how we promote health and how we educate clients within practice. So that's like a small whistle-stop tour. Next Monday, you will be on campus with us. And I want you, or we would like you all to review the module overview document in advance of next Monday and to review the skin and musculoskeletal systems. Now, I will be sending an email to all the registered students just to outline the preparation needed for next Monday. Next Monday at 11, our tutorial, in-person tutorial, and it'll be really nice to welcome people back on the campus after the last 2 years. So our lecture next Monday is downstairs on the ground floor in the Health Sciences building in Lecture Theatre B005. So we look forward to meeting you all there. We will be going to the clinical labs between 12 and 1, and we will be allocating you to groups in the labs, and we will have a number of colleagues facilitating the labs with us. We're very fortunate in our module, myself and Eileen, we have a number of our colleagues here in the school, faculty members, and we also have a number of adjunct clinical colleagues who come in and teach with us, and a number of registered advanced nurse practitioners who also teach and facilitate clinical skills learning in the labs with us. So I think our team approach and our focus on skill acquisition really will be beneficial to you all. So already today I'm coming with some work. So we're asking you to engage in the pre-class learning activities that are outlined, to read the chapters in Bates on the skin and general survey of the musculoskeletal system, and also to watch the Bates video tutorials. I forgot to say to you on my previous slide, I'm hoping the Bates textbook is available from the UCD campus. Now you can also buy an online textbook if you prefer an ebook, if you prefer to access your books in an electronic format. The book is available also to buy in an electronic format. It's really crucial. It is essential to learning. The textbook really is essential to match with our video in our videos in Brightspace. The UCD campus bookshop have the textbook in stock, and they will actually, you can buy it online and they'll post it out to you. Or you can collect it obviously next Monday. But if you can at all, we'd be delighted if everybody can access the textbook. And Eileen, I'm not sure if there's anything else I need to say there for today. It's a kind of a very short whistle-stop tour. Obviously next Monday, we will be going over all this again, and I will be in email communication during the week in preparation for next Monday on campus. And myself and Eileen, as I said, work closely as the module coordinators. Orla works with us, Brahman is our program manager, and I think I mentioned all our colleagues who also teach in the labs with us. And please, if you have any questions at all after today, you're welcome to use the Ask a Question, or if you're not in Brightspace, please just email me directly. No problem at all. Any questions are welcome, or if you have any concerns. A number of students taking the medication programs and maybe the advanced practice program may have already completed the module with us. And if you have already completed the module, which you have done with us in recent past, the 10 credit level 9 module can be RPL, so you can get recognition of prior learning and you don't have to take the module again. So if you have taken the module before and you're registered for one of those programs, please make sure to follow up with the program administrator to apply for the RPL, to save you one module of study that you've already completed before. Thank you. Thanks, Eileen. Is there anything?
No, thank you. Thank you, Rita. I just want to say welcome to everybody. And I think your biggest asset this week will be to engage with the Brightspace and just get a sense, as Orla said, of what comes under for the first week. I think that's really helpful. But you also have to remember, and Rita and I always reiterate this, you're coming with so much knowledge and skills. This is advancing that layer of physical assessment and history taking and putting it into a nice, neat package of a module. So we look forward to working with you. And those Brightspace, as I said, is going to be your best friend, definitely. And the book, the Bates book, and Brightspace will be your best friend. So really ask you to engage. And I know we've some students on the bridging module, and I will meet with them separately, just in case you're on screen today or you're online with us today and think that we're ignoring you. We're not. And I'll talk to you separately if you're doing the health assessment bridging. It's very few students. It's only applies to students who've done a level 8 health assessment prior to coming to UCD. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. I forgot about the bridging students. Okay, thanks.
Rita,
Yes,
there
Bronwyn.
is a actually there's a question here. I don't know who could answer this in relation to the Bates test textbook.
Well,
Do we-
I think, yeah, thanks, Bronwyn. Yes, I can do that. I think, Niamh, one is the main textbook and one is the pocket book. The pocket book is like a small book. A lot of our students buy the pocket book to bring into clinical practice with them. So it's almost like a small, like size of a MIMS little textbook that you can bring into clinical practice with you. The main textbook is quite large and quite heavy, so you wouldn't be bringing it around each day. So the textbook is more recent than the pocketbook. They haven't updated the pocketbook, but the main textbook is essential, but the pocketbook, if you wish to have something to bring with you into practice. Thanks, Niamh.
Okay, so thanks, Rita and Eileen.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Thank you.
The next session is Mary J. Murphy. And James, I was wondering, could you play that session because she's pre-recorded it. It's the introduction to the core modules, nursing knowledge, philosophy and practice. And then following that, Aoife de Bruin and Bryn Gilmore will be doing a live session on research methods.
Hello everybody, my name is Mary J. Murphy and I am module coordinator for nursing knowledge, philosophy and practice. So you're all very welcome to UCD and welcome to this module. My outcome for this morning is that you all know where to be next Monday, the 12th of September at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to go through that with you. Because on that day, it's week 1 and we will go into the details of the module then. We will look at the learning outcomes, the detail of the timetable, the mode of delivery, looking at the different assessments involved. I'll also take some time out and orientate you to the way the module is set up in Brightspace. And then we will be engaging in the module content, looking at nursing and its relationship with philosophy, and looking at nursing as a discipline and as a practice profession and what that actually means. So we'll be hitting the ground running next week. So the important thing is that you get there for that occasion. Now, it's where we're meeting is in the UC Quinn School of Business in Lecture Theatre Q043. Now, for many of you that are returning, and welcome back, that'll be easy for you to get there. For other people, the grounds can be a bit challenging working your way around. So you may be entering from various entrances. And I'm just making a suggestion to you, if you're working your way along yourselves, that a good place to orientate yourself from can be the lake there at the centre, and that is just opposite the James Joyce Library. And so they just around there, that's covered in area, and there's pathways, then they're covering ends, but there's pathways up along here. And so you just travel up there and you'll find the building on your right hand side. It's number 49 on this map, and that's what it looks like from the outside. So I look forward to seeing you there. Then, so in the meantime, you will be busy registering for your program. I know many of you have already completed that, but when you're registered, then you'll get access to your UCD Connect account, and then you can click in to Brightspace, which is our virtual learning environment. And I'm going to, when you click into that, on that icon, then you'll see your suite of modules, and there is this module. So you will click into that. Now I'm going to do that live. So I'm going to just pause this recording and go there now. Okay, so I'm now in the module, and this is the first page of the module. And you can see when you scroll down here, it will bring you to other aspects of it, and here you have information about the module, and you can see there it gives an overview of it. You've got your learning outcomes, how you will be assessed, assessment feedback, and various different aspects. So you can click on those and read on those as you need be. The tab you will be using the most often will be the My Learning tab, and you can see from that tab all the learning resources for the module are presented there. So on the left hand side, if you click into overview, you can see there's a welcome message, and scroll down and there is your timetable available. So you can see, if you scroll down further, that how you can download it or print it if that is something that you want to do. Then between this and next week, if you have time, I would highly recommend then that you click into this section here, and where it provides guides and overviews. So there's the map of UCD that I clipped and used earlier there. So you can click in and see that. And here's an extensive number of links to different information. I highly recommend at this stage going in there to the UCD Student IT Guide, and you can see lots of resources that you might find useful. And there's even the mobile apps that you can download from there, and that will help you even get into the building there next week. So that's for you to choose what you'd like to do in that regard. So just to say, I'm looking forward to meeting you all then next week and working with you over the autumn trimester to look at this very important area of nursing and to demystify the world of nursing knowledge, which is very important for us all in terms of delivering effective and compassionate practice as you move forward and flourish in all the various areas of specialty that you are working in. So I'll see you next week. Goodbye for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. We have Dr. Aoife de Bruin and Bryn Gilmore. That's great. They're going to give a presentation on the module research methods applied to healthcare. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Sorry, I'm trying to make my screen big, but it doesn't seem to want to. There we go. My name is Dr. Bryn Gilmore, and I coordinate your module research methods to healthcare. I'm just going to be giving you another quick stop through on the module. So two of us work together, Dr. Aoife de Bruin and myself. We're both assistant professors in the school, largely working on health systems research. This will be our fourth time running the module together. So hopefully we've worked out some of the kinks, and we're really excited to have you on the course. You can read most of this. We don't start until January next term, so we're just going to kind of do the broad strokes. I'm not going to get too specific because you have a lot, happening over the next couple months until then. The module descriptors online, so you can kind of understand more about the expectations and the learning outcomes on there. But essentially what this module wants to do is two key things. First, kind of really help to appreciate the importance of evidence-based practice and the importance of research within your own profession, and why we need to kind of integrate and understand research and evidence-based practice. And second, to give you tools to start that journey. So we're not expecting everybody's going to walk out being research experts, but we want to prepare you to be able to read and understand and interpret research so that you're able to apply that to your own practice. So we have these 6 learning outcomes, and within that, we have divided the module into 5 topics. So the first, as you see here, is evidence-based practice. So what is it? Why is it important? And then we start to think about what is research? So research paradigms and epistemology. What are research questions? Research design. So that's where we talk about different types of research and the methods and the tools that you use. And then really importantly, critical appraisal. So what is good research? What research? How do you read research? We want to make sure that in your own practice, you take forward only really good research. And all of your module, for the most part, I'll get onto it on the next slide, will be on Brightspace. So Aoife and I have found, well, actually with COVID, we transitioned obviously to all online, and we found that it actually worked very well, and we had high student engagement. So except for the first lecture, everything will be online. We release content every Thursday. So you have about a week to understand and digest and watch the content. Each topic has several short videos that are associated with it, and then you watch those videos. We have quizzes and other exercises that aren't compulsory. They're just there to help you facilitate your own learning and to check your own understanding. We have readings associated with each topic. We do not have a core textbook that you have to buy. There's a lot of you. There's over 250 plus ANPs. We also co-teach in your advanced research practice. You do a lot of the same content. So it's there aren't enough available textbooks in the library. So instead we just make sure that all of your resources are freely available, and we link you to the resources. So that's kind of how it's divided. So as we said, it's mostly online. It's a mix of synchronous and asynchronous. We do have 4 live groups. So we will meet either online or in person at 4 time points, and the dates are there. January 23rd from 3 to 5 is your only in-person one. And then the rest, so the other dates there, we meet online. And when we meet online, we go over some of the content, we do a Q&A, we answer some of the problems that you're going to have or that you are having, and then we divide into groups. And with myself and Aoife, and then we bring in some other colleagues, since there's so many of you, we work through key issues, and actually we start to build your assignment. And this is how you will be assessed. So what we want at the end of the course is you submit to us a research protocol. And what that is a plan to conduct research. You do not have to conduct any research. We just want you to develop a plan based on a problem that's relevant to your practice. And throughout the live sessions, we start to develop that plan together. So you're not left alone. You know, we follow the content that we deliver, and each week we build on that to start to develop your plan. We also have a peer-to-peer appraisal, which is a formative assessment that happens around the end of February. And with this, you actually share the first part of your research protocol with your peers, who then give you feedback on that. So we don't need to get into any more detail because we are not going to see you again for another couple months. But we look forward to seeing you in the spring. You should have access to your Brightspace, and everything should be available on Brightspace for you. But if you do have any questions, you can email myself or Aoife at any point, and we will get back to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bryn. Actually, we're so fortunate, yourself and Aoife, with your research knowledge. Because I think in many ways, it's a really good foundation towards Carmel's module and Deirdre's module in the second year of the master's program. So it's we're delighted to have yourself and Aoife delivering that module for us. Thanks, Bryn.
Sorry, I just see a quick question from somebody. The live sessions aren't recorded actually, because we'll put up the PowerPoint slides, but most of them we do group work, so it's impossible to record them. We will put up PowerPoint slides of the things that we discussed though. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryn.
Okay, thanks, Bryn and Rita. So I suppose the final session today is going to be delivered by Patricia Fox, and it's for the graduate diploma clinical programs. So it's an overview of the clinical competence assessment tool.
Hello everyone, my name is Trish Fox. I am the Programme Director of the Cancer Nursing Programme, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Clinical Competency Assessment Tool, or the CCAT, as I will be referring to it from here on. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you, join my colleagues in welcoming you to UCD, And I know it's welcome back for some of you who have been undertaking the programme over 2 years, and also to those of you who have studied in UCD previously. Just one thing I want to say at the outset is that this presentation is for those of you who have a clinical practicum module on your programme. If you do not have a clinical practicum module on your programme, then you do not have to listen to this. So in this presentation, I am going to give a brief overview of the CCAT, focusing on the aim of the CCAT. I will briefly discuss the assessors and the domains of competence. I'm going to spend most of the time focusing on the preparation, that is the learning needs, and completion of the CCAT, and also timelines for completion. Because it is a recording, and I know you've been listening to presentations all morning, I'm not going to go into any detail in relation to the domains of competence. Hopefully you are all familiar with the domains already. If you are not so familiar with them, please review the detailed descriptions in the document, and please go through the document thoroughly, because this presentation is really just a brief overview of the main points relating to the learning needs, proper completion of the document, and the timelines for completion, as I said. Just to note at this point that you will have 3 meetings with your assessor across the academic year, where you will be assessed across all 6 domains of competence. So this is the document we are talking about. I know some of you will have received clinical learning outcomes as well. So just to be clear, this is the one this presentation is focusing on. It is an official examination document, so please do ensure that you fill in your details at the outset, just in case it gets lost, as has happened in the past. And there have been some occasions where at the end of the year, the CCAT has been submitted with no name or details on it. So if you have already partially completed, you had some of your meetings with your assessor and you lose it, and your details were not on it, so it is never found, you have to start again, and obviously that's going to cause you more stress in the long run. So the aim of the CCAT. It is one of the assessment strategies on the clinical practicum modules which have a pass-fail outcome. So as I said, many of you will have clinical learning outcomes or other assessments also to complete on this module. And the main aim is to facilitate the assessment process and to enable you as a student to demonstrate your knowledge, skills and understanding of specialist theory and practice. As you will see, I have underlined specialist there, because when you look at some of the domains, you might quite understandably say, of course, I am competent across these areas. But oftentimes when we move to a new specialist area, we might be tested in relation to some of these domains, perhaps around communication, particularly if you are focusing on a new skill or new procedure that requires your full concentration. So just to remember that it is in relation to the specialist aspect that we are focusing on in these domains. Just very briefly regarding your assessors, we would like to say a very big thank you to them. We appreciate they are already very busy and they are taking on with this extra role, so we would like to express our appreciation for this. The Assessors Online Workshop is on Wednesday, September 28th, and it will be run by my colleague, Associate Professor Eileen Furlong, who's the Director of Taught Graduate Clinical Studies. And your assessors will be able to meet with your programme directors on the day also. Your assessors should have received an invitation by now and a link to the workshop. If they have not, can you please advise your programme director so that this can be addressed? What is important to say here is that it is preferable that the same assessor undertakes all 3 assessments with you. Having said that, we know that that is not always possible if, for example, your assessor moves to a different area or goes out on maternity leave. So if that does happen, please inform the programme director as soon as possible with the details of your new assessor, and you will need to complete and upload a new clinical competency assessor's form as you had done when you applied for the programme. Also, it is preferable that you and your assessor have as similar rosters as possible, because you will appreciate from assessing undergraduate students that really this is the only way that they will be able to determine your level of competency across the different domains. So by witnessing your skills in undertaking new procedures in the specialty area, or effectively demonstrating your clinical decision-making skills, your assessor will be in a better position to determine how well your level of competency is across the different areas. I know you will be having a separate presentation on the quality and patient safety component on the clinical practical modules. So the only point I want to make here is that this page, page 46, needs to be signed by yourself and your assessor prior to submitting the CCAT document at the end of the programme. So the domains of competence, as I said, hopefully you are all familiar with them, and if not, please do go through the CCAT and read the description in detail. So we are talking about professional values and conduct of the nurse competences, nursing practice and clinical decision-making competences, knowledge and cognitive competences, communication and interpersonal competences, management and team competences, and leadership and professional scholarship competences. So the next few slides, I'm going to focus really on the preparation of and completion of the CCAT. So as I said, in relation to the preparation, that's really around the identification of your learning needs, and completion then is where your assessor will be signing you off in terms of your level of competency for each of the indicators of the subdomains of the domains. So your learning needs, they're on pages 13, 19, 25, 30, 36, and 42. And what is very important is that prior to each meeting, you must have identified at least 2 to 3 learning needs in the relevant section for each domain for the upcoming meeting. So try to aim for at least 3 learning needs. So what you should do prior to identifying your learning needs is review each of the domains, the subdomains, and the indicators, and consider how they apply to your current role and your patient population. And I have provided some examples in the following slides. And so for all of you, it is going to be a little bit different depending on how long you have worked in the specialty area, how varied your experience has been, and what your patient population looks like. So at this juncture, it is essential that you take a little time to reflect on what you feel you need to learn for your specialty area. But what is very important is that you discuss with your assessor before you commit to your final learning needs and putting them down in pen. So you might want to write them out in pencil first, discuss with your assessor, and your assessor may agree with many of the learning needs you have identified, but may also help you to prioritize your learning needs and suggest some new ones. What is very important is that you aim to be as specific as possible in relation to those learning needs, rather than writing them down, you know, in terms of it being very vague and general statements. Please aim to be clear in relation to stating what it is you feel you need to do, such as a procedure you need to become competent in, or becoming familiar with X protocol. Many of you are probably already familiar with using the SMART acronym for identifying goals so that they are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And so this should be helpful when you are trying to articulate your learning needs also. One of your learning needs for your first meeting could be that by the next meeting, that is the second meeting, I need to gain a greater understanding of the psychosocial challenges my patients and/or their carers experience and the supports that are available to them. And to do that, I will need to spend time with the medical social worker and the psychologist or the psycho-oncologist. So in there, you can see it is clear and specific. It is measurable. You either do it or you don't do it. It should be attainable on your placement. It is very relevant in the context of person-centered care, and it is time-bound because you are aiming to have it completed by your next meeting. So what is also important here is that your clinical learning outcomes should be reviewed prior to identifying your learning needs for guidance, as they will clearly identify what you need to be competent in by the end of the program. And again, where relevant, that is, not all of you may have clinical learning outcomes for your program, but if you do have them, please do consult them. And if you don't have them, again, you can discuss with your assessor what other clinical documentation you need to complete, if any, and if that feeds into, it should really feed into your learning needs. So this is what the section for the learning needs looks like. This is for the first domain, professional values and conduct of the nurse competences. And as you can see here, there is a row for each meeting where you will identify your learning needs and your assessor can then comment on them. So for the first meeting, they may just state that they agree with the learning needs that you have identified, and they will arrange or help you to arrange that you can shadow the medical social worker or psychologist, just going back to our earlier example. And then on subsequent meetings, so meeting 2, meeting 3, it would be important to comment on whether or not your learning needs from the previous meeting have been met. Now, it may be, for whatever reason that you haven't been able to accomplish them, and that's okay. They can be brought forward for the next meeting, but it's certainly very helpful and informative for us as program directors to see this follow through, where your assessor indicates that yes, you have met this learning need and how you accomplished it, or you can document how you accomplished it. So it is essential that you have completed your learning needs just prior to each meeting, but it is advisable that you do not complete them all at the same time, i.e. when you're completing them for your first meeting. So, complete your learning needs for your first meeting, and then just prior to your second and third meetings, complete the relevant ones for those meetings. I will talk about the submission dates a little later, but as you can see here, I have put in October for completion of the first meeting, January, February for the second one, and April, May for the third one. But please discuss those dates for completion with your program director, because it might be a little bit different across the different programs. Just one other thing to say here is that there is also an additional section where your assessor can comment on whether or not you were able to achieve your previously identified learning needs and how you went about doing that. Again, being very clear and specific. So now just moving on to looking at each of the 6 domains of competence. I am going to provide some examples of what you might consider for each domain. So for the professional values and conduct of the nurse competences, we can see what the domains are. And so examples here of your learning needs might be that I need to update myself on the data protection policy, on GDPR, on the dignity and respect policy, on new protocol for the management of X procedure, on the NMBI standards and guidance, for example, working with older people, or legislation, or the new Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics, which was just published last year. For the second domain of competence, nursing practice and clinical decision-making competences. You can see the subdomains here. And examples of learning needs there might be to further refine my assessment skills of patients admitted with X complication, to become competent in identifying patients at high risk of whatever the complication might be that you see a lot of in your particular area, based on diagnosis, age, comorbidities, to be able to effectively assess and manage patients who've undergone X procedure or X type of surgery. In relation to the knowledge and cognitive competences, again, we can see the subdomains for this competence. And examples of learning needs there might be, I need to develop my critical thinking skills further in the context of caring for patients presenting with certain symptoms, and consider other possible conditions or complications. And of course, all of this needs to be evidence-based. Or I need to reflect on and consider my own learning needs in relation to undertaking X procedure. For the communication and interpersonal competences, again, we have our subdomains, which you should review prior to identifying your learning needs. And examples here might be, I need to improve my communication with the multidisciplinary team, engage more with consultants, observe a senior staff member discuss prognosis or breaking bad news or difficult news. I need to develop strategies to overcome barriers to communication, for example, sensory, psychosocial, language, literacy barriers. For the management and team competences, examples of some of your possible learning needs there might be, I need to become more familiar with supports for patients within and outside of the hospital in the community. On placement, I need to spend time with the medical social worker, the dietitian, the physiotherapist, the psycho-oncologist in order to gain a greater understanding of their role so that the referrals I make are appropriate. I need to take charge of the unit and agree those dates with the CNM. And finally, then, the sixth competency domain, leadership and professional scholarship competence. You can see our subdomains there. So examples here might be, I need to seek regular constructive feedback from my CNM, senior colleagues, in order to enhance my skills in X specialty area. I need to become more involved in clinical audits on my unit, for example. I will aim to contribute to the planned audit on whatever it is. I need to focus my case presentation on X complication, as this is something we see quite often on the unit. I will share the most recent evidence with my colleagues. So here we have the different achievement levels, which I think many of you will be familiar with according to Benner. So novice, advanced beginner, competent, proficient, and expert. And obviously a lot of this is going to again depend on your experience level, how long you've worked in the specialty area. Certainly for people who are new to the specialist area, we do not expect you to be at the proficient or expert level at this stage. It maybe if you're there, you know, quite a number of years, certainly many of you will be, but if you're new to the area, we would be expecting that it would be more advanced beginner level. So if that's what your assessor puts down, you know, that is probably appropriate for, as I said, if you're relatively new to the area. What is important is that you need to be competent by the third and final meeting. And you do not have to be proficient, you do not have to be expert, but as I said, many of you will be. So for successful completion of the programme, although many of you may attain higher levels of achievement, all students should be deemed at least competent in all indicators of all subdomains of all domains by the third and final assessment. The level of achievement should be either N, A, B, C, P, or E. So one of these must be individually recorded for all of the indicators. So what we should not see is A, B, or C, or a little check. It should be that there's an individual recording of one of these for each of the indicators. And again, see, if you have the clinical learning outcomes, they must be signed off by your signed off also. It doesn't have to be actually signed off by your assessor, but they will be aware of them. And just to make sure as well, please, that when you're handing in your final document at the end of the programme, to make sure that everything is legible and clear and completed in pen at that stage. So this is what an example of what we don't want to see, where they're all grouped together, because they need each of the indicators, as I said, needs to be signed off individually, needs to be assigned one of the levels, either N or AB or C or E or P, as I said. This will be handed back and will need to be resubmitted. So better that you get, you know, make sure to have it correctly filled in at the outset, because it's just, again, putting extra work on yourselves, and you're going to be busy throughout the year, and you won't need that extra stress and also extra work in going back to your assessors to complete it. A supportive action plan may be implemented at any stage in the assessment process using the proforma provided at the end of the document. And this is to assist you to attain the desired level of competence prior to the next assessment. Such an action plan would normally be formulated within 3 weeks in the event of a student not having reached the required standard of competence. So the CCAT will be taken up or reviewed online by the programme director. This will normally happen close to the end of trimester 1. It might be on the last day of class. And the first assessment should be completed and signed off. Your subsequent meetings may also be reviewed, but this will be up to your programme director and they will advise you accordingly. So we also have a protocol for students who are unsuccessful in achieving competence at the final meeting. And you will see this on page 8 of the CCAT. So please do review that in more detail yourselves. But students who have not attained the required level of competence by formal assessment 3 will be submitted as a fail mark in the clinical practical module to the programme exam board in the School of Nursing and Midwifery and Health Systems in ECD. You will need to repeat the assessment using a new copy of the CCAT, and a supportive action plan will be initiated under the direction of the Programme Director. The time frame for the repeat assessment will be a 1 trimester clinical placement, and this will occur in the trimester following the original trimester offering. So a few important points. It is, as the student, your responsibility to approach your assessor to discuss the arrangements for all 3 assessments. Sometimes we will hear from assessors that they have had to approach the student, and that is definitely not the way that it is supposed to happen. So please just make sure that you prioritize this very early on, and arrange and put those meetings in both your diaries, because then you will be able to prepare for the meetings and hopefully have them on time according to the schedule. So what we would recommend is that you'd have your first assessment around October. I would be saying early October, or maybe mid-October, because this is a baseline assessment anyway, and at that stage it's really about identifying where you need to focus and identifying those initial learning needs based on your experience to date. Your second assessment should really be from mid to late January. It could obviously happen that it would go into February, but if you plan for it around mid January, I would say even, that would be the better way to go, because we all know that so many different things can happen, particularly through the winter period. You may get sick, your family members may get sick, your assessor may get sick, your assessor's family members may get sick. So many different other things. We don't even need to mention the pandemic, you know, even things like the norovirus being in the hospital, and changes, various things that have happened over the years. There was one year where the volcano was active in Iceland, and there was assessors who were away and flights were delayed coming back, and then there was one year where there was a big snowstorm and people weren't able to travel to work. So the point is, so many different things can happen, and the best way to plan and to prevent any last minute stress and this pushing into over Christmas and you having to go back and you know, in perhaps on a day that you're off, to have it undertaken. Please aim to avoid that as much as possible, because it's only added stress on everybody. So the third and final assessment should be before the end of the programme. Normally we say April, May, but again, please discuss this with your own programme directors. The other thing would be to please make a copy of the completed document for yourself prior to submission at the end of the programme to have for your portfolio. In terms of contact, students, yourselves, and or your assessors may contact the relevant programme director in UCD at any time if clarification is required. And it's better to identify and address problems and issues early on in the process. So we would welcome your contact, your assessor's contact, because again, as you will see reading the protocol, if things get to that point at the third assessment where it's really only becoming evident to us that there are difficulties or challenges, and you're not likely to pass the assessment, you know, if this could have all been avoided by identifying challenges early on and putting supports in place, that, you know, I think for everybody's sake would be well worth it, just to make sure that communication is frequent and it's open and very clear, so we can all support you. So just to say then, I hope you enjoy your program over the coming year, and I certainly hope that it's going to be a little bit easier than the last couple of years have been for you in the clinical area. We all appreciate it has been very tough. So hopefully things will be a little bit calmer over the coming year. Thank you. Just some resources there for you. Finally, just to acknowledge all of our partner hospitals who have developed this document with UCD a number of years ago.
Thank you very much, Trish. That's great. Thank you, Bronwyn. And just to advise the students, Patricia is here with us now. If anybody wants to type in any question to the Q&A box, Trish is here to answer any of your queries. Thanks so much, Trish, for a really detailed and comprehensive overview of the competence assessment tool. Thanks, Trish.
Problem, Rita. Thank you. And sorry, I wasn't trying to be too negative there with all the things that go wrong. But over the years, I think we've all seen that, you know, if things
all eventualities.
Yeah. There was probably a few more in there I didn't mention, but anyway, yeah, it's just better to plan to have those meetings early and a good communication, as I said. So, but yeah, I'll stay on here if anybody has any questions at all. There might be some specifics or things that are a little bit different in relation to some of the programs. So it's always a case of just double, checking with your own program director as well, because they're.
A couple of the students seem to have asked about where the CCAT documents are available from. Your program director will provide the competence assessment tool to you in a hard copy. So they're actually in hard copy, Emmett. I know you've looked in Brightspace, but your program director will provide them.
I'm sure most people will get them the 12th of September. I know I've had a few program directors asking, so they're down in the program office. So you will get it, I promise. I know, Trish, you've given yours out already. Thank you.
Well, actually, no, I'll be bringing them on the 12th.
Oh, on the 12th as well. Okay. I knew you collected them from the office.
The office.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any other question? There's a question. I'll answer Aoife maybe separately. About the dermatology program.
One main thing, sorry, I said in there, Rita and Eileen, was about there being a separate presentation on the quality and patient safety. Sorry, that was an error. But program directors will be discussing this as Eileen has everything ready for us in relation to that component of the clinical practicum. So there isn't a separate presentation. My apologies.
I think, Trish, is just that some people might be familiar with CUSP, so that we're just moving to a slightly, but it's still quality and patient safety. So thank you. Rita, I see there is one person asking, is that, sorry, 744 dermatology?
I'm not sure the code.
Yeah, I'll have to check the code. I'm not great on the code, but anyway, at the program, your program director is the person who, you'll have selected your assessor on your form, and the program director then is the person, but you're asking us who your program director is. So I'm just going to have to check the code if it's what program. Can you just answer what program 744 is, please? I know we should know all the codes, but I don't know them off by heart.
Yeah, there's so many codes. Sorry,
yeah.
Giselle. Yeah.
Is that 747?
Is that 744? Yeah. And just to say that your assessor is actually from your clinical area. So I know if you're going into second year, you may have identified this person in first year and you mightn't remember. Now we have all their names, so we would have contact. So it's not a professor from the university, it's a clinical, it may not be a clinical nurse specialist, maybe a staff nurse. It can be, it's an identified person who's agreed to be your assessor, Nino. Okay, so just to say that.
So Mary Teresa, you're asking about year 2 in children's emergency. Your program director is Suja, Dr. Suja Samadhan. So Suja will be in touch with you in relation to the specialist component of the children's emergency if you have any queries. So hopefully that's straightforward for you, Mary Teresa.
Kate, we would prefer if the documents are handed, because they're, as Trish has already said, they're official UCD documents. So we would be anxious that documents are given directly to students as opposed to one student getting, copies of them. So if you can contact the program director and you're not here on the 12th, if you're not going to be in soon after that, we can send it out by registered mail to you. But and it's not that we don't trust your colleague taking it, but because it's an official document of the university and one that you need, as Trish said, we just want to make sure it goes directly into your own hand.
Aoife had a question about the dermatology program. So Aoife, your program director is Hazel Lee Cunningham. So I'm trusting you will hear from Hazel in relation to the specialist component. Or just contact your program administrator and we'll follow up with you. I think Marie is also in dermatology, so you will get that from the program director. I'm not sure which program you're on, Jackie. How do you find out who your assessor is? I suppose in some way we're jumping the gun. All these details will be provided to you next Monday when we start. So essentially next Monday is the start of term and your program director will make all those details available. We're like a week ahead. So hence the program directors will be in touch with you in relation to next Monday. I see a question there, Tricia. Do you see it there, Eileen, from Priya about the hours per week in relation to working with the assessor?
Well, it's 75 hours per month is the requirement for the clinical practicum. In relation to working with the assessor, I mean, it's as much as is possible, as I said, working, if possible, with the same roster, but we know that that's not always possible. Depends if they're doing long days, if you're doing long days. But every day that is possible. We don't have a set number of hours in relation to that.
Rennie, I'm just a little bit concerned if you said you've submitted your CCAT and you're listening to Tricia's talk, because one thing Trish had said that this is for people doing clinical practicum this year. So I'm not, you said you've submitted your CCAT without taking photocopies. So maybe you just can contact me. You can contact me, eileen.furlong@ucd.ie. Just let me know and I can talk to you offline about that issue, what program you're on and how, if you finished it, then you're not actually going to be doing it this year. Thank you.
Just the other point on the assessor, who the assessor will be. Normally that assessor is identified, it's one of the requirements for acceptance onto the program. So that would be for most programs. So I'm not sure, just in relation to that person, again, as the advice was to go back to the program director, but that is one of the requirements of being accepted onto the program is having the assessor in the clinical area who's most appropriate, based on the requirements, based on the qualifications, experience. And
yes, I think that information has been submitted by all the applicants in the online application process. Paul, you had asked about the availability to listen back. The whole orientation session this morning is being recorded, and we will, with our colleague James, our audiovisual colleague who's recording the session, we'll be making the link available to listen back to all the sessions this morning. Okay, so I don't know, is there anything we have missed out on that questions? I want to say to everybody, thank you so much for listening, and just to flag, of course, you can follow up with any questions with our program administrators. There's a connector form on the School of Nursing, Midwifery and Health Systems web page. You will have access to your program directors. So we're all working away this week, busily preparing for term next Monday. So we're more than happy to answer any questions or queries that you might have. But we want to encourage you to really engage with the registration process and try and make sure that everything is up and running and that you're organized in Brightspace so that you can reduce stress for yourself for next Monday and that you'll be able to engage with the program materials.
Just a question there, Rita. Somebody's asking, I think it's Mary Teresa, just about attending next Monday. Again, your program director will have been, I hope, will have been in touch with you about this, about whether or not you need to attend on the 12th. So it just, maybe just, if you can just email your program director just to clarify, because I know different programs have different attendance online and face-to-face dates. Thank you.
And all our programs have different modules and different core modules. So there's a lot of complexity there, Mary Teresa, but your program director will be able to advise you. So,
sorry, Rita, I just wanted to go back to Ninu's question. Ninu, I know you're on part-time cancer nursing program, first year of that. So Rose Peters, I think you had put down the CNS as, so that would be who your assessor is. So just in case you were confused in relation to that, so that was who was identified, hopefully. Sometimes it can change going into when you're in year 2, as I said, you know, if the people have moved to a different area, but that's just to confirm that. Thank you.
okay, so hopefully we've answered all your queries, but as I said, we're continuing on today and all throughout the week to follow up on any issues or any questions that you may have. So I'd like to sincerely thank my colleagues, Dr. Patricia Fox, Associate Professor Eileen Furlong, my colleague Mary Jane Murphy is still there, and Bronwyn and her team down in our administration office been really helpful to us this morning, and thank you for all your work in preparing for our orientation and for our student intake for the autumn. And for my previous faculty colleagues who are not with us in the Zoom room still, a big thank you. And James, thank you for your audio-visual support. I like to see there's lots of hearts running around on my screen, which is quite nice. So hopefully, please, if there are any queries, it's really important just to engage early. Get in touch with us, and we will endeavour, of course, to follow through. But registration and access to Brightspace, I suppose, really is the trump card that you need to have in your hand to prepare for next Monday. Excuse me. Okay, so if there's no other queries, I think we can sign off and finish up. Is that okay, Bronwyn? Is there anything we need to?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bronwyn.
Thank you, Rita.
Okay, take care, folks, and we shall see you along the way.
Thank you, Rita. Well done.
Many of you on campus. Thanks a million.
Good luck, everyone. Enjoy the year.
Bye. Best of luck, everybody.